is 1:30.
Oh, I'm not numbered.
We will call our regular, February meeting to order.
Good for you.
We'll do introduction, all board commissioners are present. And if we could go around the room for introductions, we'll start over there with Eileen.
Oh, I'm not here for tomorrow. Anna Brown, for tomorrow. Troy Greg's, chamber BCBA in court.
Mike,
Mike Hughes with Wolf Bar.
Craft for the term.
Mike Mormon, Morrow County Assessor, Tax Collector.
Kara, and your board.
Greg Aaron, North Morrow Agricultural District.
And you can walk her. Greg Morrow, you start tomorrow? Erica, working for tomorrow. It's a lot to get used to.
Mark Patton for tomorrow.
Lisa Middlestroke for tomorrow.
Another, somebody else coming in. Could you announce yourself?
Absolutely, Tom Roberts, the chief area will fire.
I'll start online with John Rooney.
John Doherty, City Hubner.
Aaron Palmquist, City of Aragon.
Right there, can you identify yourself?
Gus Peterson, Morrow County Commissioner.
Thank you.
Sam Tucker, Port Council.
Thank you. Kelly,
Kelly Morgan, Lamb Weston.
Ryan,
Fran Gleason, Port Morrow contract lobbyist.
Dave. Congrats, Dave. Welcome, Kirby.
Yep, Kirby Garrett, CFM Advocates.
Dave Sykes, Morrow County Commissioner.
Thank you. Matt Benson,
Matt Jensen, Morrow County County Administrator.
thank you. Emily. Emily, can you hear us? On Raven.
Hi, Raven Hayes. I'm here on my own behalf.
Thank you. Justin. Oh, that's a place. Great.
Hi there, this is Greg Smith, Columbia Development Authority.
Thank you. Everybody.
Okay. Is there any comments?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be on the comment list. Next is our consent agenda. We have January 13th and February 3rd meeting.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I will second that.
Okay, Rick has moved and John has seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Aye. Opposed? None heard? Looks like I gotta read out everybody's name now. Okay, so, Joe, John, myself, Rick and Kelly were all ayes. Yes. Okay, next is legislative updates. Greg, do you have an update today or not?
Depending which hat you'd like me to put on, and I could be here today as a legislator, I could be here today as CDA.
I was planning on you being on CDA.
Okay.
Why don't we have Ryan go, and if there's anything you need to add, we'll just go with that.
Wonderful.
Okay, Ryan.
Kirby, do you want to go first to just cover the federal, what's going on at the federal level, and that will kind of play into at least my update and maybe some of the chaos that's going on at the state level with the budget implications.
I would be happy to if that's okay with the commission.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay,
you.
awesome. All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, it's been quite a month in DC since my last update. I think the last meeting was right before President Trump took office. Once he did, he certainly hit the ground running. Day one, signed a whole litany of executive orders, more signed in the ensuing days, and even more on the way. Lots going on in Congress as well. I'll kind of spare you even from that update today, just in consideration of time. But just on the executive orders, real quick, one of the obviously big ones that kind of caused shockwaves was on the first day, one of the orders appeared to freeze all funding under the Inflation Reduction Act and the bipartisan infrastructure law. They later clarified that was kind of just for EV charging and similar Green New Deal programs, but there's still a lot of ambiguity around that. The administration then followed that up a few days later with a freeze on virtually all federal financing assistance until they could vet each of those programs, every grant award that had been made, even obligated grant funding, to ensure that it was sort of cleansed of like Marxism, woke ideology, and other things that they thought were put into place by the Biden administration that they didn't like. So there's pretty significant backlash to that, obviously amongst Democrats, but a lot of Republicans too. And so shortly after that, which I'm sure you saw, they rescinded the memo, but there was a lot of uncertainty around that as well. As press secretary said, it was still in place, even though there's a memo circulated that rescinded it. Then a judge put a temporary pause on the freeze. And then most recently, there was another judge that I think it was just yesterday, said that the administration is not complying with the funding freeze pause and is still, in fact, freezing some of the funding that's out there through federal programs. So ultimately, there's still a lot of uncertainty around this, a lot up in the air. But I will say we need to see where the dust kind of settles on this, but we don't expect it to cause a real issue for most of the programs that the port is currently receiving funding from or planning to pursue in the future. And that includes the WIFIA financing program as well. Agency personnel are definitely in somewhat of a state of limbo and trying to navigate all this, making sure they're doing the right thing, and are awaiting guidance from their higher ups. But yeah, again, really, I don't see any issues with WIFIA, the Port Infrastructure Development Program, or the other programs we are targeting or planning to target. I don't see anything that would really put those up on the chopping block or cause an issue. But we will continue to monitor it going forward and keep you all updated as things progress. Otherwise, we are barreling down the road to March 14th. That's the deadline by which Congress needs to pass a spending bill. With everything happening on the funding freeze and the Department of Government Efficiency trying to kind of shut down some of different government agencies, it is making it really, really difficult for Republicans and Democrats in Congress to come together on a compromise bill. And I think the risk of a government shutdown is growing by the day. So we'll see how that plays out. There's a lot of daylight between them, and they've got a little over a month here to sort it out. Even though Congress has not finalized that bill yet, which is the FY 2025 spending bill, Senator Merkley and Senator Wyden have gotten a jump start on the FY 2026 process, and they have circulated their solicitation for community-initiated projects, otherwise known as earmarks, for the FY 2026 spending bill. So that's the bill that Congress will start writing later this spring once they wrap up FY 2025. Merkley and Wyden, they've set a deadline of February 23rd for those projects to be submitted to their office. So we've been working very hard to put materials together and coordinate with our partners to get all those applications ready. And right now, we are looking at partnering on requests for facility renovations to make a business incubator in Ione, construct improvements to the exit 165 interchange in Boardman, advance safe drinking water projects with the Morrow County Clean Water Consortium, and yeah, are coordinating with all those entities to kind of push those projects forward. Otherwise, I'll leave things there, but we are looking forward to seeing the port contingent travel out to DC next month for the PNWA conference. That is the week that the government shutdown deadline is on that Friday, so it is sure to be a very fun and fascinating time for you all to be in DC. Gonna be busy. So, anyways, I'll leave things there. Happy to take any questions.
They don't shut down the FAA.
Yeah. Any questions for Kirby? No. No questions today, Kirby, thank you.
Awesome. All right. Thank you all.
Okay. Okay, Ryan, I'll hand it over to you.
Well, thanks, Commission, for letting us change the order there. I think it's helpful to just have the federal overview to kind of understand the lay of the land and how legislators are feeling in Salem with the federal implications. It's a little bit chaotic, and the mood has kind of changed a little bit with budget leaders, and we don't really know what to expect, and we're not going to know what to expect for a while. Some of the local government folks on this call can probably speak to what's happening on the ground better than I can, but we know there's hits across the state that unfortunately the state budget could not sustain themselves. And so that is also leading to chaos and uncertainty. And again, the state budget cannot backfill all of those things. And so just again, some really intense budget implications coming down on Oregon, that some of the things in my conversations with budget leaders will land. We know that they will impact Oregon. Others, they just won't. And we won't see the impact that the administration, intended to have through the court process or any other process. They're just not going to land the way that they intended to. So more to come on that. We'll keep you posted as the temperature shifts in Salem on the budget. But 2 key dates to know: revenue forecasts upcoming. February 26th is the next one, and that kind of is the gut check, the temperature check. That's when the legislative leaders, budget writers will start moving those initial, less complicated state agencies that don't have as much intensity in their budget, and so they'll start clearing the decks with those. And then the May 14th revenue forecast is when they will use that to finalize the biennial 2025-2027 budget. And so that will be the final point for legislators to make decisions. So there's a number of bills that we're tracking this session. I'll just move into a couple of the priorities that are relevant to the Port of Morrow. I'm keeping Lisa and the rest of the team informed. There's a long list of things, and so just going through a couple of the ones that are relevant. House Bill 2169 is a bill related to reuse. That is one that we did submit comment on. We are supportive of the bill. It does relate actually really nicely to our permit with the Department of Environmental Quality, and there's really some great opportunity to put the Department of Agriculture in that bill. They're hoping to stand up a state water reuse team, and getting the Department of Agriculture in that bill, in that team would actually help the port and reuse in general moving forward in the state really well. And so we did submit supportive comments and some suggestions on that bill. Senate Bill 747 is a bill that would require irrigated acres, 200 acres or more, to annually report fertilizer application to the Department of Agriculture. We have reviewed this bill. We would fall into the reporting requirements of this, but these are things that we do report to the Department of Environmental Quality. So these are things that we are already tracking, and we'll keep you informed of the bill as it moves through the legislative process. I am still waiting for direction on House Bill 2725, but I believe that's further down the agenda. And I'm working on identifying a couple projects that we can submit through the capital construction process, and having conversations with Lisa on exactly what those are. And as we finalize what that is, we'll bring that to you at the next commission meeting. So I will stop there, and I'm happy to take any questions.
questions, Ryan? No. I think you got her covered. Sounds like a full plate. Okay, thank you, Ryan.
Ellen, where's your blue shirt today? I noticed that. I guess I didn't get that memo.
So next we move on to old business, first on there is CDA update. We have Greg Smith on the Zoom. Do you have
Perfect.
anything you want to update, Greg?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, my name is Greg Smith, Director of the Columbia Development Authority. I'll go through a list of the items that are in progress or need to be addressed. The first one, and I'll try to mention them in priority order. So the first one is the accounting for the Columbia Development Authority. This includes receiving invoices, processing invoices, depositing incoming checks, receive board signatures on checks, and mail final payments. That is our number one priority, and we're taking it very seriously. Our number two priority is the OLDCC grant. We're currently working to ensure that our quarterly reports are submitted, our annual report, and we're beginning the new grant application. With that, we've got our CDA budget committee. We're in the process of putting that together. It is important for folks to understand by state law, or according to state law, excuse me, the CDA is not required to have a budget committee. We're not required to hold public meetings. However, in the interest of transparency, we're going down that path. And in the very near future, we will have a layout of how we intend to make that process work. Interestingly, we are receiving new project inquiries. As of right now, we have 3. Each of them are in a very tentative stage, but we are receiving those calls. The next effort that we're working on is making sure board meetings are organized and prepared in a manner that meets the board's requests. Next, we're working on a road project. We did just receive word from Umatilla Electric Cooperative that the $5 million we anticipated receiving is now ready to be sent to Umatilla Electric for purposes and uses out at the depot. The thing I'll be bringing to the board on the 25th of February is the suggestion that 5 million be paired up with the 7 million in order to just complete the road project that the CDA is working on completely. I should have mentioned this a little earlier, but one of the things we're also doing as part of the financial management is preparing for our annual audit. I expect that annual audit to be very similar to last year's in that very limited findings, if any. Let's see, at the 25th board meeting in February, I will be bringing a resolution forward that authorizes me to sell up to 100 acres of property at market rate. And we'll let the board discuss that. You see here, some of the things that are on the back burner that need to be addressed is attending chamber meetings. In addition to that, we were at a period of time about a year ago working on marketing and branding for the CDA, updating our website, maintaining Oregon Prospector. Those have been put on hold for the time being. We really wanted to make sure that we were proceeding on redesigning the igloo doors so they could be available for public storage purposes. That's been put on hold. One of the requirements we have with the OLDCC is the liquidation of stored furniture, machinery, equipment, etc., out at the depot property. The board wanted to address that issue further as they wanted to know who was going to assist in the auctioning off of that property. So it's stalled there. I'm hoping that the board at the February 25th meeting will take action on that and allow their director to pick an auctioneer. One of the issues that's really outstanding is the transfer of land to the CTUIR. We're of the opinion that any and all things that need to be done to proceed have been submitted to Umatilla County. However, Umatilla County is failing to process our application. That'll be an issue the board will need to address. And then the last project is construction of our Oregon Trail parking lot as part of our agreement to preserve that archaeological resource. So again, those are the items we're working on. I tried to list them to you in priority order. I would remind the port that our staffing consists of 1 3/4 employees. And Emily, if you don't mind, I'm going to share that she has a blessing coming and that baby number 2 is on the way. And so assuming the baby doesn't come early, she'll be going on maternity leave approximately around July 1st. So that's kind of where we are. Those are our updates. I do want to thank Eileen and Lisa and the team at the Port of Morrow for all the work they do to assist this CDA. It's important work they're doing, and please know that it's noted. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any questions for Greg?
Joe,
Yes.
I do have a comment. In terms of the local, special district budget process, Eileen had a conversation with someone from Department of Revenue and suggested that he talk to me. I have placed a call back to him and not heard back from the gentleman at Department of Revenue, whose opinion initially was that the CDA did not require a local government process. It'll be interesting to know the answer to this, because I would think that it might be the same case for CREZ and the same case for the Water Consortium. So anxious to have that conversation with Department of Revenue.
That was a question for me, Greg, so at whatever the audit we had back this fall, they said we needed to have a budget committee. And then we talked about that and said, okay, yeah, let's do it. Now you're telling us we don't.
That's correct.
Again, our staff is still, seems like you're not for sure.
Eileen, you talked
Well,
about that.
the statute is very clear that it is not required. In addition, oh gosh, I don't remember the resources. I think it's University of Oregon, Oregon State University, published a paper on the budgetary process in Oregon. And it clearly states in there, again, with the statute referenced, that the ORS 190s are not obligated to that process.
But as I recall, the audit that was done said that one needed to be done.
The purpose of the audit is for the BRAC and the OLDCC.
Okay.
No, go ahead, Lisa.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
And I'm trying to recall this, and we should have this in front of us if we were really gonna talk about it, but I brought it up, so. There's conflicting statutes, and one said they do, and one said they don't, so, we had gone with, they don't.
Okay, yes, that was my take from the references Greg just made, that they were not subject. I had a disagreement with their auditor, and she quoted other statutes that, like Lisa said, conflicted. I had called the state to get an answer. out of the blue, somebody else from Department of Revenue called me because he was having some question about whether or not they were in fact the Council of Governments or if it was just an intergovernmental agreement. And
So-
that's where we left it, and I don't know the answer. You're right, I don't know the answer.
So gang, from the CDA's perspective, this conversation is irrelevant in that we are going to follow the public process. And so whether we need to do it or not, I'm going to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. that. I
Understood,
just
but
wanted,
we do need to know the answer for other reasons, so
yeah.
we'll keep trying to find out.
And Greg, I appreciate you doing that. Thank you. As someone that is one of the entities that contributes to the CDA's financial success, it's nice to know what we might come to expect, you know, and things like that. So it's appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Commissioner, I appreciate that. I do want to note, just to add a little meat to the bones on the sale of the 100 acres. The intent of that is to utilize that cash for working capital and to assist in future construction projects, and this is an important one, and to reimburse those entities who may have been assisting the CDA over the course of the last year as a result of our litigation.
Lisa, didn't you, last month, we talked about that, and where that 100 acres is going to lie, is that still up in the air? Is it on the Morrow County side or Umatilla County side?
The Port of Morrow has not gone out onto the property to meet with any clients on that site, but Greg, I assume we might still be in negotiations there?
Most definitely, you know, at the end of the day, I'd love for the Port of Morrow to benefit from this transaction. But it'll be your decision. Should the Port of Morrow choose not to participate in this, then we'll do it on the Umatilla County side.
Do you have a piece in mind that you, with that resolution, a specific plot of land on the Morrow County side if something was to move forward?
Lisa, do you want to address this or do you want?
I'm going to say that that's something that Mark and I would be doing.
Yeah.
Out on the site, talking to the client about their needs and trying to find the best location for them.
But I guess I might be getting ahead. The resolution that you're gonna bring, is it gonna ask both counties to
Right.
provide 100 acres or only as it might, go along, but that's not right.
And then, Greg, correct me if I'm
As
wrong.
needed.
Yeah, you're asking for authorization to negotiate the sale of 100 acres somewhere. Is that basically it?
Yeah, so following state law, what we intend to do is put the land up for sale, take the highest offer. I anticipate we will receive an offer within 30 days and go through a closing process.
And since we have a current purchase and sale agreement on the property in Morrow County, I would assume after he negotiates with the client, he would come to us and ask for our opinion.
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. One of the questions I believe I was asked previously was are we authorized to sell that property knowing that Umatilla County is litigating the CDA, Morrow County, Umatilla County. I think the Port of Umatilla. The answer is yes, we do have that ability. I confirmed that with our legal counsel at Schwabe Williamson and Wyatt. So, gang, it is a pleasure to provide these updates. I really appreciate, personally, I really appreciate all that the Port of Morrow does. And thank you.
And Greg, I appreciate these updates. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Take care, gang. I'm gonna go do some other stuff. Bye-bye.
And we haven't heard back as far as either other CDA stuff, haven't heard back from OLDCC on the latest.
No, Eileen and I did call and talk to them on Monday, and he hoped, but what didn't promise that he would have something returned to us by Friday for this week.
But unwilling to share with us what direction they were going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions for the staff? Anything like that? I think Greg covered everything I was thinking about. Okay. Next, we'll move on to what the update.
Really, the only update is that we don't have any new news to provide you. We're going back and forth on term sheet. We sent revisions and we don't have any back from the Whitfield team at this time. We did have a meeting with their staff. At first, we were canceled because they were unauthorized to attend the meeting, and then they ended up being able to join. So we'll have a meeting with them. I don't know if we'll touch base with them before March 6th, whatever the date is.
I'm not sure if they're invited to the bi-weekly meeting, but
They are,
so we have a meeting that week.
yeah. Martin is.
So all the federal government stuff Kirby talked about, does that flow this Wikia down? Some, any, or, I mean, I would assume it has some impact.
Well, that's why we got the notification the day before our last meeting that they couldn't attend. And then the morning of, he was able to attend. But like there was a USDA finance person and a WIFIA finance person that were scheduled to be at the special districts conference. And they both had to cancel because their travel had been, authorizations had been revoked.
I know I stopped in and spoke to you, I think, before the meeting, and I appreciate that, thank you, but maybe for the commission's knowledge, when does it become a matter of concern that we haven't heard from WIFIA as far as funding is concerned, and when do we look at other options, or is there a time that we should be taking other actions?
We currently have other options coming next week.
Next week, yeah.
Visiting us
Okay,
next
so
week.
we're exploring them now,
Yes.
well ahead of what we need to.
And we have been.
And their
since-
rates may
since we
be,
did our
their rates may be better than.
But Kirby, we're looking at March 12th for a meeting in DC. Kirby stepped away from it's typically on Wednesday because that was their in-office day and for the department. So no, we're continuing to explore other options
And we have time till 26, right? Through mid 26, if I remember right.
October 26th.
Okay, all right, thank you.
It starts getting critical on the secondary treatment side around May. This year.
That's this year.
This year, so we get funded.
It's time to continue to, yeah, okay, fund the. Okay, all right, thank you.
Do we have that completed yet, Mark?
Secondary treatment?
Yeah,
We're still working through the BE options on it and the redesign. So we basically figured out our scope and we're doing the redesign right now. So, you know, it might be a good idea next month if we have time to have consort come through and actually walk you guys through the secondary treatment. So you guys can kind of understand the numbers.
Especially if there's been revisions since we last. met,
Yes,
maybe.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's good. All right. Anything else for you? Okay. Next is the CWSRF update.
Can you give that one?
I can do that one.
Tell me what that is again.
That's the
Clean water.
the $50 million we're requesting.
Oh,
Here.
okay.
Well, I think we submitted everything to them. We are waiting on one document from us on the value engineering and how we came to that point where we're value engineering the project down. So Consort's working on that. We should have that by the end of the week to them. I think Eileen, you, financial side, they have
They have it all in the packet already.
all the EA stuff is done. I mean, the reason this stuff is all done on our side is because it's all the stuff that's required for a review. So we're just basically waiting on them to review the documents and then get back to us with any questions they might have.
And it's a process that DEQ thought would take 8 months
Yeah,
to get through, and it shouldn't take 8 weeks to get through.
and they got most of the information in one day because we just did one big huge.
Data done.
So when will we know? When is the,
We're having meetings with them every 2
Yeah,
weeks.
and we're scheduled to have it completed around May. That's our goal. That lines up with secondary treatment. And that's what we kind of push DEQ
To be
That
funded.
would be good that they knew that.
And that's $50 million. Also, we will be asking for another $50 million in their April funding round.
Okay, good. Okay, moving on to the OHA SEP update.
That's in the packet, right?
no, I didn't read the email. The only update is that we, are waiting. Michael Campbell has met with Jeff Bachman and we agreed to pay OHA, so they're working on figuring out the updated language for the MOA. Our first payment's due December 2025, the next one's December 2026. It had the amounts, I couldn't tell you what it is.
I'll bring it back out here after the break.
Yeah, there's really, not much. He broke down the amounts, but we had already agreed to pretty much same thing, so it's updated.
And they're willing to work with the Clean Water Consortium.
Yes. So we're still waiting for the language from Jeff Bachman in the
Yes.
MAO. We haven't received that yet.
They are willing to work in water districts.
Yes.
All right. Good. All right, nothing else on that then, Lisa?
No.
Okay. Next is Morrow County Clean Water Consortium. You know, Lisa and Kelly, you went to a meeting, right? What came of that? And
Lots of things. They went really fast. Chris Sykes is the president. I'm the vice chair. I think we have a secretary and treasurer.
Not
No,
me.
that was Matt was gonna,
Matt,
Matt and the finance director was gonna take care of that for us, so we didn't do that. We have
we
900,000.
started on an advisory committee.
Yeah. We appointed the cities of Oregon and Boardman. And then added the H2EO and have 2 seats still available. Which I'm really pushing hard for community engagement, since we didn't put them on the board. I thought that was the direction that we were headed in, was where we only have the 2, we said we would put that forward, so. I've got a couple names in mind that I'll bring up. I think our meeting is on Friday.
So the action that we took was to have the cities of Boardman and Oregon each provide 3 names back. So I would give your names to the city. Aaron, is Aaron online?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I know Aaron's got some ideas for Oregon already, so I don't know if he's ready to share those yet, or if he wants to wait to share them with the group, but he's definitely talking about it. And I've not talked to the city board of them at all.
It would seem to me that it would be good to have community involvement, people that are affected by this issue. Not, I mean, no disrespect for anybody in the city limits of Boardman or Oregon, but if it's somebody that this project might assist, it might be a helpful voice in putting forward projects.
I think that they were to look for people outside the city limits. Yeah.
nothing else. No future, he had really didn't do much other kind of set things up.
We have another meeting Friday at 4 o'clock.
Because of the funding timelines, is that why we said it again so quickly? We didn't want to miss a funding opportunity? Is that?
Yeah, federal funding opportunity.
Yeah. That was kind of right up for a deadline, so we thought we should get together.
So we kind of need to get a description put together
Yeah.
in that meeting and I talked with Kirby about it. Yesterday.
Well, yeah.
We're trying to make it kind of vague, so it covers the whole Morrow County farm. So we don't want to just stick it in one pocket in case we do get started, because these funds won't even be available until 2026. So you won't be able to start a project. Like if we started a certain project, those funds would mess all the federal requirements up. So if we make it big enough, we can move it around, any place in Vermont, or design, or construction and
Consortium.
whatever we want to do.
Well, there's funds, so like some of our loans that we have, or funding that opportunities that we have, you can't start the project yet. Is that
That's correct. Yeah.
gonna be that same?
You gotta get
hold up?
all the way through the award and the agreement, and it takes forever. And if you start any part of that project that's described in the agreement, you're not allowed to take the funds. So you gotta go through all the EAs.
Well,
It's very complicated.
it depends on the funding source though for that, Mark.
It does.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, just to be safe. you know.
yeah, but if we make it big enough, we can say we've already started out there, because we move someplace else. And live long. So it's still benefiting. And it might even work for them.
It's interesting though, now that this is public and people are starting to hear about it. People are coming up and starting to talk about their individual problems and what they think they are and what kind of funding sources would be available. So not just the ones that are a community project area that would be a water line from a city. So the outliers are starting to talk.
It's great, more talking, more communication, better.
I think there's a county meeting tomorrow too. The GIS probably will present some really good information that we should,
GSI.
yeah, GSI.
Yeah.
At the county level, you know, stuff that they're working on, projected out some costs and some different ideas and things. So he's supposed to have a presentation on that tomorrow. It'll be good, something to.
What time is that?
I'm not sure. I don't think camera's on. Maybe Chair Sykes is.
David Sykes, are you?
Or Matt.
listening?
It's at 3 o'clock, 3 to 5 is the slated time for that meeting. Or
Any other questions? Kelly or Lisa on that? Okay. Next is the Board Appointment Representative Commission Direction, and Lisa reminded me.
This was
John
just-
has
yeah.
asked for that.
This was just a request for one of the commission's input on the CREZ 2 and CREZ 3 discussions, but because of the timing of the meetings.
Yeah.
They happened, and hopefully it was met with everybody's
Yeah.
approval or close to it.
Yeah. So you're good on some.
Yeah, I'm good with
Okay.
CREZ 3 gone by too, or? I don't
Well,
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was kind of an automatic. I wasn't there.
Yeah, it was the disbursement of the community development, $5 million. Now, there's other topics coming up that will come up that are business related, and I guess we could discuss them coming forward, but I don't know anything about it, so I don't have any requests for direction.
I'll ask David another day.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got coming up.
And just a reminder there, $900,000 has been given to the Clean Water Consortium for work, so they've got 900,000 for seed money to start working on.
Yeah, from CREZ 2 and CREZ 3. So
Right.
appreciate it.
Okay, next is Budget Committee appointments.
Yes, we currently have one person who was on the second year of their 3-year term, which is Von Studer, and that is Rick's representative, and we need action on the other 4.
And the other 4 are who? Mike McNamee is mine.
Okay,
John Kilkenny is mine.
And so,
And I need to work on mine.
okay. What's the date for getting those in there?
it is the April commission meeting, that the 9th.
So in March, we can do another. We could.
Yes, so if I make my motion to approve the ones today. I would make a motion to approve Mike McNamee, Lisa Curran, Joe Kenny, Von Studer.
No,
No, he's
Oh,
going
he's
on.
already
Oh,
on.
so it's just 3 right now. There.
Yeah.
And of course
Okay.
with Joel.
Oh, okay, so with Sam.
Yeah, I'm saying, yeah. So I would make that motion to appoint them to the budget committee.
I'll second that.
Okay. John's moved and Kelly has moved to appoint John Kilkenny, Lisa St. Curran, and Mike McNamee to the budget committee. Any other discussion on those? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I forgot to do roll call. Sorry.
Aye.
Joel, John,
Aye.
aye for myself, Rick. Aye. Yeah, and Kelly.
Aye.
Motion unanimous. Figure that one out. Okay, next is HB 2725. And we tabled that from our previous meeting.
We did.
Yeah.
The latest version is in your packet. Do you want to hear from Ryan first?
Yes, that would be good.
Some summary changes would be great.
Yeah. So Ryan, did you hear that?
I am so sorry, Commissioner. I did not hear that question. I'm in the Capitol. It's a little noisy. If that could be repeated.
HB 2725, your agenda. You give us a summary of the updates on there.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Commissioner. So no major update other than what we talked about last week. So there will be an amendment as we talked about, that would essentially split the state in half and treat ports on the west side differently than on the east side. So by that amendment, the Port of Morrow would be kept in the SIP program for the entire port district. And I have not seen language for that amendment. Excuse me. I have seen language for that amendment. I have forwarded that to Lisa, so it should be in the packet. That is the latest. It has not been scheduled for a hearing. I believe it has not been requested for a hearing. But that is the latest. Sorry for the fumble there.
That proposed. That's
Oh, here it is. Thanks, Commissioner.
Yeah, and the language that I got on the bill tracker may be different than what Lisa got from Ryan. It does not say the east-west of the, I don't know what it says, east of the Cascades, west of the Cascades. It says something.
Ryan, do you have that in front of you? Can you read that? The east side, west side?
Has this bill been amended yet? Or not?
We don't know. That's what they're gonna.
I don't think so.
So the amendments are not posted on OLS. Let me pull them up in my inbox. Just 1 second. I am zooming in from my phone. I have walked from my office to the Capitol, so it'll just take me a moment.
Lisa, how do we know that more amendments will follow if we approve it now?
You won't know until, well, we'll get tracking approval from Ryan about what's been dropped. But that's the quickest way we're going to find it out.
And so, oh, I apologize.
No, go ahead.
Thanks, Commission. So I just forwarded the amendment language to Lisa, so it does, the -2 amendment would, I'm summarizing it, but it would essentially split the state into the east and west categories, as I just said. And those amendments are not posted on OLS because the bill has not been scheduled for a public hearing. So how the legislature works is those amendments and legislative concepts are actually considered confidential with the legislator that has drafted them or started that process. And until they're shared with another person, they're confidential. And so because the legislator, shared them with the city of Hillsborough, who's working on that bill, they shared them with the city, and then the city shared them with me. I have those to be able to share with you all here today. So Lisa has those and can share with the rest of the commission.
So Ryan, I'm looking at the email on February 4. And the attachments are both the same language, which was the Port District that owns land on which any part of the proposed eligible project will be located, not the one that's the east-west.
So you should be looking at the -2 amendment, Lisa, and it says affected port means a port district located east of the westernmost dam on the Columbia River. So that would keep it, and then a port district that owns land on which any part of a proposed eligible project will be located. And so I'm not at my computer to like explain how like these amendments like fit into the bill, but this would keep it so the port of Morrow and like the dams east of
I got it.
the west, the east of the westernmost dam on the Columbia River.
A port district located east of the westernmost dam on the Columbia River. So east of Bonneville, which would include the Dalles, Arlington, Morrow, and Umatilla.
So I thought the gist of this conversation was from our last conversation with the letter that was submitted from Morrow County requesting us to voluntarily withdraw from SIP agreement language and or support legislative change. That is what I thought we were discussing. I don't know. So here would be my initial thoughts on this. So again, the Port of Morrow had nothing to do with this original bill, the 2009 bill, which was in 2023, not in 2009. And so obviously the legislators had conversations with some other port districts that had some concerns. And so that was probably a way for them to address those concerns. I would be concerned if the Port of Morrow would take a stance that would conflict with other ports in the state. I just don't think that that should be our position. We don't know what those circumstances are. So as the law is today, it says that SIP agreements are to be negotiated in your port district, which for us would be countywide as well as the county. I would be remiss on wanting to change the state law, but I would also say that I would agree that we should have a sit-down conversation with the county. And like we have done in the past with other agreements, have an IGA in which we can work together on these issues, have good conversations on how this would work, and come to a resolution rather than trying to change state law that could affect other ports and other counties in the state. I feel this is something we can manage. I think we are capable of coming up with an IGA that's going to be beneficial to both the county and the port.
I guess my question is, how do we know what position of the other affected ports are? Yeah, we don't, that's what, so are they opposed or for or?
Go ahead, Ryan.
I'm happy to answer that question, Commissioner. Thank you. The Public Ports Association has been actively involved in the negotiation of the -2 amendment, and they are, is my understanding that the other ports are supportive of this approach. And Mark Landauer, who is the executive director of the Public Ports Association, he has been responsible for negotiating this with the city of Hillsborough. So from the rest of the port's perspective, they should be covered.
And Ryan, I will let you know that we just went to the special districts conference, so we went to the ports caucus, and I know one or two of our port commissioners got to talk to Mark about this a little bit as well. So I think that I told you that I would have an IGA drafted by today. It hasn't happened yet. It is open on the top, but it's done. I'd love to take a stab at that.
Okay, my thoughts on this are very similar to yours, Rick. I'm not sure, or these, I'm not sure how we got here. I don't like the way all of this happened, but I think the destination is correct. And that with an IGA, something can be worked out. I think that IGAs are flexible enough to address county's concerns, is my hope. But to micromanage it from the state level, but I guess I would like to see us proceed that way. To move forward with working out an agreement.
So with that, Joel, so state law governs how credit agreements work.
Right.
And we did an IGA with our other partners on how to best make that work for us. Not the rest of the state, but us. And I like that approach because it's a local control approach. And it's a way for us to navigate this and work together. Play nice. Lisa, I think it'd be a great analogy. We're married in this venture. And so you kind of have to work together to get through. And I like that approach. Does that mean that we have to be involved in something that's going to happen in Hardman? You know, I think there's ways to have conversations and say, you know, for example, within so many miles of a port property, you know, that the port has some say in that. So because we could be affected in several ways. Plus, we can't forget, this is an economic development tool that we need to use to continue to grow, not just Morrow County, but the region.
And
Yes, Ryan.
I apologize for interrupting, commissioners. I do have to jump to another meeting that is in person in 2 minutes. But I wanted to just make a recommendation that the commission oppose House Bill 2725 unless amended with the -2 amendment, to ensure that the port can stay in the SIP program. So that is my recommendation to you all, if that is of your interest to stay in the program. So when you make your decision, provide that direction to me, and I'm happy to go forth and make sure the legislature is aware of that.
Thank you, Ryan.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. I have to jump.
Yeah.
I think there's a hidden position.
I think the IGA, the port doesn't mean the port has to be heavily involved in. There might be projects the port could step aside on. Would an IGA could do that? Is that, or am I?
The IGA can have whatever parameters.
So it seems like we should be able to work something out.
I think it's a position that we have, and I wouldn't want to give it up. But we can definitely have an IGA that works for everybody.
So what Ryan is asking,
I know.
right now, we are married. And some of the other partners the other ports have agreed that this amendment would work for them. And it would work for us, so I guess it's up to you whether you want to support this now or wait.
Well, you know, really, the county was the one asking for our position last meeting, right? Or get that right? Is that what they asked
Yes.
for a commitment on our position? And how do you say that I'm with it back and forth? 2009 and 2023.
I'm confused about the House Bill 2725. Does it nullify the 2009?
It puts a qualifier on it that it would only be for those that are, that it would only impact the ports that are east of the westernmost dam on the river system.
Right. So nothing.
Which is a really odd way to do it, but it's.
That's what she said, oppose the current one, but the -2,
Yeah.
we would support.
Yeah.
So the current one does not do that.
Right, the current one would take us out.
Out. Okay.
So that's why she said we would like, she wants us to, she's encouraging you to oppose that one unless it's amended to the -2 language.
Okay.
She's encouraging us to remain in the SIP agreements countywide.
Correct,
That's what she said.
correct.
But that requires an amendment to this particular. Yeah.
Or we need to oppose 27.
As it's drafted right now.
And this stance of staying in the SIP agreements would be contrary to what Morrow County Board of Commissioners at, I think it's correct.
And that's the way I understand it.
Except that we think an IGA in county is the right approach. I believe.
What does the county think of an IGA?
Well, you know,
I mean, you have to have it.
we can have discussions. Again, the impression I got from that conversation was more about local control, more so than state control. And I think, I don't know that anybody from the county really can comment at this point, or if they're willing to, but I think we can get there. I honestly do. We've done it in consortium, we did it in CREZ, we've done it on several different programs over the years. I can't imagine why we couldn't today.
I guess I have one question then to help clarify my thinking. Mr. Jensen from the county sent us the letter of the meeting minutes. I guess my question to him would be, what is your concern for sending those minutes? What, did you not like the way the meeting went? Because I'm struggling to find, I guess, the problem in the whole situation. I can understand where county would like to have rights in the county, within the county, without port commenting, even though we're a county-wide port district. But like those meeting minutes, was there something that went sideways to produce this request of us? Mass?
Yes.
I forwarded those meeting minutes to you because there's a question on how the community funding money was separated and divided in our last meeting, and so that those meeting minutes provided that that separation and the commitment that was made from that SIP agreement. So there was a question in that last meeting, and so I was just following up on that commitment there.
Okay, all right, thanks, Matt. So I guess, again, my question would be then, wonderment, if no one can answer it, is the issue at hand prompting this action, or this request for the letter. I don't see where the court stepped in, or if we even had a chance to step into SIP negotiations in the past 2 years. So I'm struggling to find a reason why, I guess, to be blunt, to support the county's position or their letter. I am in favor of an IGA. If local control is always better. If we can come to agreement between the county and the port, or if we need to step aside, or they would prefer we did on certain projects, hey, I'll entertain that thought, certainly. But anyway.
Yes, please.
Aaron Palmquist, I think, would like to comment.
Aaron Palmquist, you had a comment?
Yeah, commissioners, my recommendation to your legal counsel is said to go to a -2. From my take, I think there's things that you guys can work on this item. I know where, John, you're at. Hopefully you can hear me, but as a constituent, it's, IGAs are dangerous in this situation. I don't think that it would be dangerous to make it in statute because IGAs are like resolutions. They change with the flow of people. And you want to keep this consistent, but I think you need to iron it out so that the port gets and is protected, and so is the county. And I think there's things that are there. I'm not going to go into detail. I've looked at it after last meeting that you all had last Monday, and I think there could be some workable stuff, but it's not an either or. And a -2 would get you there, and I recommend that.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay,
So recommendation of, HB 2725 with -2 amendment.
It doesn't, isn't that just exactly opposite of what you just said?
No,
No,
he finished
no.
his last sentence.
Yeah,
So opposed 2725 as it's written.
but except the -2 amendment.
Exactly. Support.
And just to be clear, Ryan is not our legal counsel, she's our state lobbyist.
that's right, he did say that. Thanks, Aaron. Okay. We're.
Is there any way that we could suggest alterations to that? Say something similar to like what you guys are all saying is that if it affects the port or, and, you know, a distance or a, you know, if it's port ground or something like that, port owned ground that we have control, where there's someone else's ground, they have control. Is there anything kind of an amendment like that that would go into state law instead of just being through an IGA? So that it's applicable to everyone, and it's in writing and statutorily set, and not just an IGA that can change.
I think that's what this original language of 2725 does, isn't it?
Which we were, the amendment is the -2 is the compromise that works for the ports that have been, talking through special districts.
And that's just the one port, right? That's just the Hillsborough port that's brought all of this forward.
Portland.
It sounded to me.
It was Hillsborough that brought it forward.
Okay.
Yeah, that the west side ports, including the ocean going ports, they don't have an issue with their SIP negotiating power being only on port property. Am I saying that correctly? East side ports,
Correct.
like us,
Correct.
are questioning whether we want to give that right up, but it sounds like the west side ports are willing to do that. My off base, so.
I don't know, do we know that for sure?
We don't, that's what I was asking you earlier, was what do we know and what don't we know of what everybody else wants to do? And what other counties are thinking as well,
So I
because they're
would,
gonna be affected.
yeah, I would go back to the earlier statement.
We're married, remember, we're married right now.
Yes, I would go back to the earlier statement. We don't know what, or at least I don't know what drove this legislative change, other than some ports had some concerns. And so therefore, the law was drafted in 2023 to make a legislative change to allow ports to negotiate SIP agreements. I would be apprehensive to put something in here that would go against what other ports across the state might be trying to achieve. I believe the language is already there, the law is already there, that gives us that authority. Do we as a port give that away? Or do we leave it as is and work together with our partners to come to a resolution that fits us, Morrow County? And let the rest of the state deal with whatever issues they have so that they can fix their problems. And it doesn't affect, we don't affect what they're doing.
Mike had a.
I'm sorry, Mike, yeah.
Yeah, Mike Gorman, Morrow County Assessor, Tax Collector. House Bill 2009, I believe, came out of the Port of Coos Bay, which is not a countywide port district, because the county was negotiating a SIP agreement with a lumber exporter, I think. And so the Port of Coos Bay, level with their legislator that wrote House Bill 2009, you know, not realizing that there are port districts in the state that are countywide. And I think that's the history behind House Bill 2009. All ports are countywide. A few are Port of Morrow, Port of Gordon, or Port of Morrow, Port of Gillum, and I think Wasco County. They're the only ones. I don't think the Port of Hood River is, or
The Dallas, the Dock.
That's something that we discussed down there too, was how big are those districts that, you know, this rule will affect a very small part of their district, where this rule affects a very large part of our district. And a lot of those port districts are extremely small, just really located right around their port. So it's not affecting their county like it might be affecting our county. So to say that we're comparing apples to oranges and what each county or each port wants to do, then you need to go back and look at the size of their districts, which are very small and which are very located, you know, near their port district, and where ours could be, you know, they're way far away. And so they're not looking at the implications that we should be looking at. They're looking at just a very small little area that surrounds their port. Ours is a big area.
It sounds to me that the House Bill 2725 of the Amendment -2 would basically say that each port district would, no matter the size, small or countywide, would be able to negotiate on SIP agreements with the port or with the county.
That's the way I understand it. And it sounds like
Only.
It wouldn't change, right, for the ones that are east of the western most dam on the Columbia River.
Which are where the countywide or mostly countywide port districts are.
Yeah.
So it's
You
maintained.
know, for me, and I've said this every time we've had the conversation, this is about partnership, and this is to alleviate the opportunity for us to be in disagreement on incentive programs between the SIP and the enterprise zone. Because there are real life cases that I could talk about right now where this could happen. And when you've got Morrow County and the port in partnership here, and you don't have Morrow County and the port in partnership on this one, that company can go here to try and drive a different deal than they are driving here. So that's my concern.
We haven't had any problems recently, have we, with the same agreements?
We had this SIP at 178. There was a SIP instead of an
Out
enterprise zone.
here, wasn't it already started, so it didn't qualify for a cause?
it wasn't in the zone boundary.
Wasn't in the
It
zone
fit
boundary.
in their time frame to
Right.
include it in the boundary, so it was by, the owner's own decision to go with an SIP. There was no debate on which one would be better. SIP fit their time frame better. Well, that's exactly what happened.
Having been involved in those agreements or those discussions at the time, we were negotiating other CREZ agreements. We were attempting to do a CREZ agreement with that project as well. They decided that a SIP agreement was in the best interest for them. And so that's why they went to the SIP agreement rather than the CREZ agreement. But then again, we were initially having discussions about doing all of the CREZ agreements.
And Mike's right, timing drove the issue on
Yes,
that one.
right.
That property would have been
Yeah.
already in the enterprise zone boundary, it would have been an enterprise zone boundary.
Right.
Too.
So a question then, the court had to sign off on that SIP agreement with the county then?
No,
No.
Because it was.
it was
It was
prior
before
to
the law.
2009 coming into effect.
Okay, so if it were to happen next week, the port would have discussion and would have to agree to any SIP agreement that happened in Lexington or Irrigan, correct?
Yes.
As the law is written, yes.
As it is now.
But I would hope that we could come to an agreement that if it doesn't have an effect to the port or within so many miles of the port, that we don't necessarily have to be at the table on every one of those agreements. I think that, we need to come up with some language that either if we provide services, or potentially could provide services, or if it's an impact. So when we're trying to decide, you know, is this a company that's going to, you know, we've had cases where we've had companies come in with, the potential of locating in here, that needed 1,500 employees. Well, we can't sustain another 1,500 employees. And so we weren't willing to engage with that customer to move forward in that process, because there's no way we could give them 1,500 jobs. We don't have the staffing or workforce for it. So we have to weigh all that when we're making our decisions. And from that standpoint, I can go on forever, but I think if you're looking for a motion, I'm prepared to give a motion. If we want to discuss it further, I'm prepared to discuss. I want to make sure everybody's gone.
I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here. I just have one more question. Give me an example of where this process would break down and there would be hard feelings between the county and the port. What request would the port make that would upset the county?
I would think on Rick's example, wind towers. Up above, right above the Kinsey mill site. You know, they're right there. Would that impact the Kinsey mill site? Maybe, maybe not. And we're saying, no, that's a bad whatever for us.
The port would say no. So
Yeah,
that's
it could
the thing.
impact us adversely. We don't want you to put it there, but the county wants it. That'd be my first guess.
Or division of money, would that be another example?
Well,
I would think so, yeah.
Obviously,
Probably.
money drives a lot of conversations.
That's the
Okay.
conversation that we're really having, actually, probably.
All right.
On the other hand, this is about working together. This is not about fighting about money, at least not from my standpoint.
I
It is
don't think
about
the county came here saying that, you know, they didn't want to get along. They came here, you know, with the idea that it was going to split and they were going to be left out into the cold. And I don't have any problem with doing a SIP agreement on our land, our port industry land, our 4 or 5 places that we have. But going out countywide where we are so big and it does impact the county, you know, financially. I don't know, I don't want to have a race to the bottom either. You know, I don't want to have the CREZ competing against the SIP. I don't know which one, you know, one benefits one benefits the other, and there's just no other way.
No, one benefits one and one benefits everybody.
Well, they both benefit everybody, just
Yeah.
maybe in different ways.
Yeah.
I mean, when we can't, you know, it's hard to debate on which program's better because they are vastly different. With an SAP program, there's the taxable amount. There's fees, statutory fees that need to be paid. With enterprise zone, there is not. But with enterprise zone, there's employment and wage requirements. With SIP, those are not, they're not there. So, you know, we don't need to be, the port or the county or the city doesn't need to be telling the company which property taxes in a program is best for them. They need to figure that out on their own and come and apply to whatever they think is going to work out best for them. And, you know, don't see wind or solar projects in enterprise zone, asking for enterprise zone exemptions because of the vast amount of area that they encompass. And SIP, there's no zone boundary or no limitations, as there is like with enterprise zone. So.
Well, I think it's important to remember too that cities can do offer SIP agreements, counties can offer SIP agreements, and ports can offer SIP agreements. Why would we want to lose that?
So Joel and I had a conversation about this and approaching this from a positive standpoint instead of a negative standpoint. And that is to develop an intergovernmental agreement so that those decisions can be made between us and Morrow County sitting down to decide how we're going to be partners.
Support that. Okay. You want a motion, Rick? I think we're about there.
So please, if my language is off, make sure. So I would move that we oppose House Bill 2725 as is presented today. And then if offered with the -2 amendments that we approve it.
We support it.
We support it.
Would we want to put in there any kind of language that?
Let's
Oh, I'm
wait
sorry.
for a second first. Is there a second? Up there. I will second. That motion.
Now for
Okay.
discussion.
Yeah, now for discussion. Go ahead.
Would you be willing to accept an amendment that would say that the Port Commission would also support working toward an IGA with the county on how we can work together
Absolutely.
on these projects?
I would amend my motion to add that language.
Okay. Do I have to approve it,
You have to approve it as a second, yes.
yeah, I'll second Rick's, amendment. Okay. Okay. This, motion is on the floor. Any other discussion? Hearing none. We'll do a roll call vote. I'll start with me. Yes for me. Rick?
Yes.
Kelly?
I'm really on the fence on this. I don't like taking the money from the county and giving it to the port, but if we're gonna have an IGA, we don't know what that looks like yet. If I knew more about what that IGA was going to look like, I would be way more inclined to vote yes, but right now I'm a no.
Okay. John?
Yes.
And Joel?
Yes.
Okay. The motion passes 4 votes to 1. Okay, thank you, everybody. Okay, next is vector control location swap.
Okay,
Talking land, all right.
this is a happy subject. Vector control is at a point, with their agency that they want to grow. And they want to grow in another location, build, new facilities that work, better for their business model. And they've been talking to us for a year probably about this, opportunity. And we suggested that they own the buildings on the property across the street and they have a lease with the port on the ground. And I think we proposed that we would offer them 3 acres in another location that we would choose together on port on property, deed them that property, and they would deed over the buildings on this property to the port. Their last bond was approved. And now Greg is working on financing. We talked to special districts a little bit, but working on financing to get a building put down. He and Jacob have been around the port property again after we looked at other properties. And he's narrowed it down to a site in East Beach, right across the street from Oregon Hay by the grain grower facility. And this morning, Mark had maybe an alternate idea that we could run by Greg, but it's just on the south side of the main line by American Rock. So we would propose that, well, Greg, do you have anything you want to say?
No, just basically, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to do this land swap or work, because we are very much in need. I mean, this area is not, is growing, and our services are gonna be really dependent on more. And we kind of seen the writing on the wall, well, back in like 2018, that, you know, our facility was not as up to date as we'd like it to be. We would like a more state-of-the-art lab facility in our facility, which we do not have right now. And the other thing too is that our district probably runs the most mosquitoes for mosquito-borne disease testing than any other district in the state of Oregon. And so we kind of live in the perfect storm, you know, as far as mosquitoes and mosquito-borne diseases, and also nuisance. And so we need a facility that's gonna, you know, we don't have an organization walk in there and say, ooh, how you guys bringing what kind of mosquitoes, you know, with mosquito-borne disease and everything. And we just need to be, keep our employees safe, and in turn, by doing our testing and everything properly, we will keep our public safe. And right now, we have vehicles that cannot be housed, and we have equipment that probably should be under lock and key. We have a chain fence around the facility currently, but it would be better if it was in a building locked and secure. Also, our chemical building is too small. We can't take advantage of early bird pricing with our products that we purchase. So we have to do that in increments over the season, which does, you know, so we can't be advantageous about those prices that, you know, and to get those. And so we need a bigger facility there with the chemical building. As a matter of fact, if we weren't going to move, you know, or if we could have expanded on site, that was great. But our first thought was to get that chemical building a bigger building and with more square footage. And but then we came to the realization of Tidewater Apartments across the road, and then we also have a walkway that people walk on all the time, and we have to do Ames testing on our equipment, and which requires us to actually, you know, spray our product out during the daytime, which is normally sprayed at nighttime. And we just, you know, we've got to be thinking about that too. So we just need a place where we can do our activities and do our testing and everything, and not be, you know, bothering the public with that. And so anyway, yeah, and we definitely need to find a piece of property that, you know, that we can expand and relocate. Believe it or not, urban growth has pushed us out. I don't think the pizzeria and brew pub right next door to us, and sure, it's convenient for us. and they also, you know, they kind of look at mosquito control as like, oh, we have mosquito control right there. They can take care of us. And, but still, you know, you can get in the picture, you know, and as time goes on. It was nice to hear that the board is considering deeding this property, which would, and also that helps in the financial aspect of it too, you know, if we go out for a construction loan.
I would make a motion that we support the land swap for vector control of the deeds as determined by staff on locations.
I'll second that.
Okay, John is moving, Rick is seconded. Any other discussion on there?
I would just say it's been a good partnership with vector control, and this is definitely a service that benefits the residents of Morrow County. So thank you for what you do.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, do a roll call vote. Joel? Aye. John? Aye. Aye for myself, Rick?
Aye.
And Kelly?
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you. All right, you. Next, Jay, Port Morrow pension plan update.
Okay, so We are proposing changing our plan document plan to a standard model plan. And I thought there was more here than there is. What you have in your packet is just the IRS notification that the model plan has been approved by them. There's no substantive changes. It's still a required 6% contribution from the employee. It is still 9% from the court, assuming that you meet the 1,000-hour service requirement in the plan year. It makes a few, it allows for modification to comply with changes in IRS code. For example, it will allow us to go from 5,000 to 7,000 limit of when you can just tell when somebody leaves and leaves their money behind. Currently, or prior, what our plan said, if it's up to 5,000, you can just distribute it to the employee. IRS allows a higher limit of 7,000 now. Currently, our plan allows an in-service distribution. Once you're over 62, this would change to 59.5. So there's a few minor things like that, but the last time we had to look into doing something with our plan, our bill was $64,000 from the attorneys that we've always used for our pension plan. And this would, using a model plan, it's 3,000 or 4,000. Because they're, you know, when they make one change, they make it, you know, to everybody.
So what would be the financial impact of this plan moving to a different plan as compared to other than the attorney stay before we had?
Okay, attorney fees are the only change.
That's the only change.
Yeah, we're already with Empower. It's the same investment options. Everything else is the same.
So before was a specific special one?
Yes.
We had written that, so this one.
Yes, and it was written as a PERS equivalent, and there were some, in our consultant's opinion, some archaic requirements that are no longer federal law.
Has it, has it been successful, this program? I mean, people like it or use it?
Well, they have no choice. If you
Oh,
come to work for the court in a full-time position,
Uh-huh.
you will participate 6%. You do not have the option to
Okay,
say that you're not going to participate in that. It's not going to change.
okay.
The 457 plan is completely optional.
Right, and that's
Uh-huh.
right, but that's not what this request is.
Okay.
So as far as the 457 plan, we are also planning to switch it from Nationwide to Empower, but we have never required commission approval because there is no court funds involved.
So you need approval from us to change this plan over. And I would, and we've had previous discussions on the nuts and bolts of the plan several months ago. And approve them. I would move approval of the change to, and help me with the right lingo. Port of Morrow pension plan to, which one is the, what's the name of the new company? I think?
Well, the approval here says Great West Trust Company, but it is Empower. They've changed their name since they got their federal approval.
Okay.
Empower.
To move to Empower or Great West, whichever the current name is.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay, Kelly is second, John has moved. Any discussion? Hearing none, vote again, I vote aye. Kelly?
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And Joe?
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Just for the sake of, because I don't know what it is, what is it that 24/7 plan or whatever you were talking about?
Or it gives you the opportunity to do a tax deferral. So it'd be like putting it into your personal IRA, except for you can put more into it because you don't have all the same limitations as you do with a 401k or an IRA. If you have a retirement plan, you're very limited in what you can put in and defer. So it's just a governmental deferral plan, just a different, well, that's the code. 457 is the code ID.
I just didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you were a school district, you could do a 403B. But we're not a school district.
Apply to public.
All right, last on our list is other. Is there any other old business we need to cover? We haven't? Okay. Moving on to new business, SBAO annual conference. Kelly, Joel, and John went, right?
Yeah.
Eileen?
I enjoyed the SEO conference a lot. I usually do. This is like about my fifth one. I went to classes like SEO, assessing financial health, strategic planning, best practices for board members, for a healthy relationship with your board. Then went to board caucus meetings, all good information, updated information like taking a roll call on our votes.
Yeah, where did that come from?
There.
They were adamant about it.
Yeah.
That was that class that you're supposed to take.
I got caught.
No, it was good meetings, so.
Another odd ones we talk about is any notes you take during the meeting are supposed to be saved for public record, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe getting a copy of whatever that I made, so.
Just leave them on your desk. We, confiscated Joe's key the other day and just made files of it.
Oh, it's gonna get Here's your note.
So Maria made files in that filing cabinet over there so that you can access them whenever, but so that they're kind of just held in a space, so if we do get a public records request from, they're already there.
And that applies to any note you make.
So,
Yeah, so your rules on your agenda, anything that you wrote on needs to be kept, just leave it there at the desk and we'll make sure that we pick them up at the end of the meeting and put them in there.
Grocery shopping list.
You can make a copy, if you would like to keep them, you can make a copy, or we can make a copy for you, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So where you do digital notes, I don't know what to tell you.
I'm gonna email it, yeah, just what I was gonna say. Yeah.
That's one thing they also mentioned is the laws aren't keeping up with technology. That'd be like one, says you gotta keep your paper well, but if you do that, I don't know that there's a specific law, but it'd be better
No, they did say if it was on your phone or your text
It's
or
public information.
public information, so if you're
Yep.
sitting here and someone sees you texting or answering your phone, they can ask you to see your phone.
The keynote speaker was on.
They can put in a request to see your phone.
Oh, yeah.
Keynote speaker talked about cybersecurity and, well, he predicted in 2025, there's gonna be a big one, but, his four topics were prepare, assess, investigate, decide. I don't know where we're at, but I'm wondering if we should assess what cybersecurity, how something, a major shutdown of the computers and stuff, what would happen? I mean, just to assess it.
Well, okay, I will say it has been assessed and we just need to get the right people in here.
We can set aside on the next agenda to have,
Okay.
Miff, Rob, and Bill in here to talk about what our IT department does.
And they probably need to dumb it down for the.
And one thing they mentioned was infrastructure, attacking infrastructure across America. They're expecting that the power grid or the utilities somewhere, there's gonna be a major attack. So we have a very important utility we need to keep operating. So
I will tell you, years ago, there were Homeland Security grants that we got several times year after year. Really, it was, the previous fire chief that encouraged us to do that. They had been doing it, and we secured some of our water source points. We did, fencing and lighting around Terminal 3. And if there's dollars like that, again, we could certainly pursue them.
There's usually a lot of dollars for infrastructure, city infrastructure, county infrastructure. There's usually a lot of money for that purpose.
Specifically cybersecurity, attacking our computer that controls all our phones or something.
Then I went to a grant one about fundraising, and Whiffia I was gonna go to hear Whiffia, but they were locked out or whatever, they had travel freeze, so they weren't there. But learned something about Business Oregon, and I guess we do use, they have a lot of grants, a wide variety of opportunities. So,
We've probably used every one of them.
probably used every, okay.
We have them on speed dial.
Then I went to a fun one with 3 librarians about free speech. And so, yeah, I like librarians, so anyway. They are well read. And it said, talk about public rooms and spaces, and it's a good idea to have policies, because we do rent spaces, and to have a policy, especially a code of conduct policy. So that if something does come up, we have a policy there, and we can say, no, you have to leave, or whatever. And define harassment and define privacy. Anyway, that was their pitch, was to have policies for that kind of thing.
So you mean like at the Sage Center or even
Yeah,
downstairs?
or downstairs, or just
We
they
can work on
said
that.
if you do it after, if you do it afterwards, then you don't have a policy, so how do you? And I don't think it has to be complex, it can be straightforward, but it might be a good idea to have policies.
Yeah, we save center.
Or not, I don't know.
No, it would.
But it's the biggest. There's a lot of small district in the state, was it over 1,000? I don't remember, but it was, and there was hundreds there, this was a big group. And with the Wi-Fi, it has some interesting visits with cemetery districts, things like that.
I think John and I felt that way in the finance one, because they were talking about making sure that of all your checks, that you went through every single check and that it was reconciled, and that was your job as the board. And I thought, oh my gosh, there's stacks this big, and we don't reconcile it. We have two CPAs on our staff, and they're talking about make sure that, that check, comes through and it's not being, funneled here or there. And it was just kind of like, okay. And then the one man that was extremely worried about $1 million debt service, and John and I kind of looked at each other and went, okay, well, we need a bigger picture that maybe they maybe they need to make, some of those sessions for the bigger districts that don't face the challenges that the little districts face. So
Yes, some of the smaller districts have a real problem with segregation of duties.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
And it is your responsibility to step in and, if that's the case.
Well, even when we had the discussion with the ports and their industrial parks, and Port of the Dalles has 2 staff members. 2.
And, when we sign checks, we do have the invoice with them, so that's appreciated, so we.
Yeah, we kind of laughed too when they said, make sure that what you're buying is what you're getting. It was like, what's the stuff, it says it's.
You know what all those parts are?
No, I don't, and I hopefully you're not taking them home in your lunchbox, but I don't know.
Well, I appreciate your time and check, that's what saves. Okay.
I did pick up on a few things there. Public meeting law, actions and non-actions. There is a new public meeting manual out in 2024. Like it or not, I'd say one of the items that they changed was something that we had encountered here, and that was 48-hour notice for a meeting. And that was really an interpretation at OGEC previously, because you have to give accommodations for needs 48 hours in advance on a request. So their assumption was that you would have to give 48 hours notice for the meeting, but it was not specifically stated, so now it is. They each vote by name.
So Lisa, could you hit on the 48 hours again?
It is in the public meetings manual now that you must give 48 hours notice.
Unless it's
for your
special.
meeting.
Unless it's
Right.
emergency.
Right,
Right.
right,
So the specials 24 hours.
right. And we did the 24-hour notice forever.
Yes,
Forever.
before it was vague, it said reasonable,
Amount of time.
a reasonable amount of time, but down below it talked about accommodations needing 48 hours. So in their mind, that meant that if you have to give 48 hours notice for somebody needing an accommodation, but you're only giving 24 hours notice for a meeting notification, that didn't match. So in their mind, a reasonable amount of time went to 48 hours, although that was not written. No, but the special meeting always said 24 hours and the emergency meeting said less than 24 hours. But regular meetings were not defined, and now it is. And we did order new books for you. Once Lisa said there was new ones, we ordered new books, so those should be on the way, which are in your course, but we haven't got the new ones yet.
You just ordered them today, I think, right? Yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay. Our website should have who to submit grievances to. If someone has a grievance, it has to say on our website how to submit those. Lots of OGEC issues. Cabinets we've taken care of already. Lots about funding, and opportunities, so that's always good. The other thing is you'll see under new business strategic plan, and we gave you a copy of our current, so you can read that. And we'll talk more about that in new business, but it's a good conference.
The reports of the strategic plan, you know, ours is 5 years old, 2020 already. Things have changed a lot since then, so we'll talk about it, I'm sure, shortly.
Well, and two, with that, those COVID years really impacted how we were doing things, because we used to have our strategic plan done on a regular basis, so.
Well, and even though that was dated 2020, it really was finished up in 2021. But we're in a 5-year rotation on strategic planning. Our economic impact analysis is more like 3 probably.
So are we mandated to do it every 5 years or every 10 years by the state?
5.
Every 5 for the
5.
state. I was trying to remember what they said. It was 5 or 10. Does it have to have, well, I guess we can talk about this later. We'll wait. I'll wait. Okay. Yeah.
Anything else on conference? Go.
Next year's in CSAR. Thanks for set up. Same roundabout date.
And we're gonna block our hotels before the fire districts get there.
You know, we should have.
We know who gets all the rooms first.
They don't open the
You're on the ball.
December. I think it looks like the day that they opened the block and they were already gone.
Oh.
They did freeze some up later, but I didn't move.
Okay, moving on here, on new business, we have the City of Oregon letter.
So I asked this be on the agenda just to discuss, so we could hear from them since it was addressed to us. And other places. I'd be interested to hear comments or a summation from Aaron Palmquist if possible. He's willing to do that.
You still on there, Aaron?
I'm still here. Hiding out in my office with a cold, so you're all blessed you're not getting sick. Commissioners, you have in front of you, this went to the CDA, went to you all, and went to the Board of Commissioners. there's 5 items, and I'm not, we're all adults, you can read, but they have action items. So as an example, the first one has an action item, and the request is that the Port of Morrow make a commitment to move forward with that on the area of influence mapping needs to be updated, that IGA. Right now, the Army/CDA property is excluded from that. So it would be, so that's really, honestly, it's an easy fix, but you all have to vote on it and make a decision, same as the other 2 organizations. And I'm just going to highlight, there's 5 of them there. They all have action items. Another one is the roadway development. For years, Oregon has not ever, even under the LRA, been at the table successfully or even welcome. But we need to have, and how do we get that process going? That north-south road that runs along the west side of the Army depot and would be on the west side. And that's going to take some time, I know that, but we all have to get to the table and commit to that. And that's what that action item is as a governing body, is to establish a plan and a clear timeline. Don't just say, oh, we're going to get around to it, we're working on it. In my 40 years in the military, when you used ing words, means it was a proverbial excuse never to do anything. And how did I learn that? From a 3-star general that chewed my backside. I work hard at not doing that anymore. So I think we need to, my request and from the city of Oregon is that you make those. Another one on here is, and then I'll leave it so that you all can read, and hopefully you've read, is that looking at some mapping in the Oregon area, that extending that. There's a lot of acreage in the EZ, in the enterprise zone, and we have, and I know there's been comments, well, if there's a developer, well, let's then map it. Well, if you're going to go fish and put some bait on the hook, it entices people, and we have somebody, but is very reticent, and we have a piece of property, the city does, down by recycling for a hotel, but it's not mapped, which would give them really only the 3 years, but at least it would give them something. I know that on 730, right next to the Dollar General, the Hueys, and Barb has since passed, they wanted to put a hotel in, but we couldn't get it, and we never got it mapped. If it was mapped, now, if nobody develops, you can always move it. But just to hang it out there, I'll be honest, Oregon's a little frustrated. Let's come to the plate. We have even some industrial areas on the east side of town that isn't mapped. And that's what that one is. So it's requesting the Port of Morrow commissioners to go on record and to work with not only the CDA, but anyone in the Oregon areas, map the areas that we need to, and set out a timeline and over the next 3 to 6 months. So that's 3 of them. There's 2 other ones. I'm not going to go into detail. I know there's the one on there about annexation. That's going to go to the to the Board of Commissioners because that is vacant land, and that is a required process. And I know Chief Roberts is there, so I'm not going to touch on that. But I would like some action. Oregon would, that you would support such a movement, and that so we don't continue or don't have any further litigation across our county, because it can go that way, folks. I'll be honest. And I know there's parties that say, well, I read the law this way. Well, I don't think they're reading the whole law. It should be not only area of influence map, but it should be the southwest area and all of Morrow County property that's the CDA annexed into the Oregon Fire District. So if you want to talk to Chief Roberts on that, he can elaborate on that. And then the last one is just a portion of the 640 is because there's a short fuse. We do need water. And so we're making an application with the CDS to do a test well. And there's some great pure water right just north of that on that 640 acre. We know that we need to get some money. Am I hopeful that we're going to get it? I'll be honest, I don't think anybody's going to get anything. I think if I was a gambling man, we're going to have a COR all the way up through the end of September, just because of all the rancor and stuff that's going on Capitol Hill. But it doesn't mean we don't get out there and get and ask, keep asking and move forward. Not only do we need it for also the development that could happen on the CDA property, Aragon needs some as we continue to grow, but also now with the clean water, we need to look at what are we going to do around Aragon for people that have nitrate issues. And we need to expand that. So this would give us better strength because if there's a well there, then it can be pumped straight into our water tank, not looking at the way we do it right now, which is down by the river. We feed the town and then we fill the tank. That's a lot of head pressure on a well, on a pump, and it's probably not been designed correctly. Usually you fill a reservoir and then you distribute to your providers and your customers. So any questions? I know that's fast, probably challenging on Zoom, but you got the document in front of you. It's available for questions.
Aaron, so Aragon has a water shortage or a danger of water shortage. Is that correct then? Is that what you're saying?
For growth, we're okay right now. But if I'm going to look 5-10 years out, we're going to have some issues. We're already, the Port of Morrow experiences it constantly, where our wells that are down in this alluvial, down in this area, they have issues. We're losing capacity, even though we know the water's there. It's just very expensive and it's designed wrong. So normal growth, we're going to run out of water, and that's going to be 5 to 10 years. I think we need to look at something bigger and longer and dream bigger, because we also need to meet the needs not only of growth and in our industrial stuff, but also for the CDA. But also, what are we going to do when the water consortium comes up with whatever they're going to do? If they said, hey, Aragon, we want you to hook up, it ain't happening. We can't do it. And I think we need to look somewhere else for additional. Here's a piece that's interesting. I've already found and talked to legislators. People go, well, the county has money. That's a different kind of planning and research money. Cannot be used for a test well. Have to be specific. And we're going to go in specifically and ask for that from the feds. And I'll keep knocking on everybody else's door, John.
Okay, thank you.
On that water issue, Aaron, are you coming to the meeting tomorrow? I know they're gonna talk with the different cities about their, what, if we could hook them up with GIS. GSI, I always get that mixed up.
Yes, I'm going to be there unless I get worse. Hope to God I don't. Taking drugs. But yes, with Ronan and GSI, yes, it's on my schedule.
Aaron, do you have a number off the top of your head? How many water rights you have?
We're in the alluvials, not in basalt. So right now, to stay the same, to go into basalt, I'll give you a really quick, and Mark and Lisa, you could give thumbs up to the commissioners. To go into basalt is like slim to none, because we're in a critical groundwater area. But I can drill another well or rehab in the alluvials that we're in, because I already have water rights. So you need to understand that. So we're looking at alluvials, and that's where all the nitrate is, in the alluvials. So we got to look at all kinds of stuff. So there's been talk and stories that people say that we're about 3.6 or 4. And I have a water, I'm going to call them water engineers, Joe, looking at that to see, because I believe there's more that we have availability by permit, but just like attorneys, everybody gives you a different story, Joe. So I'm going with the lowest number right now to be safe and grow from there. instead of a higher number, which would be closer to 7. But either way, we still need more if we're going to continue to provide service, because we just had to update our water conservation plan.
Yes, I didn't understand. So how many water rights do you have?
3 point.
Right now, we have about 3.8 CFS.
And Aaron, that's what you're currently using? That's what you have developed, or do you have more right to can develop?
Those we're currently using, but the quantity or the system, because of filter pack and all that, is just degrading, just like the port has encountered. So we know that even if we just pumped it without any filters or the screening, the water's there. So I think, you know, for doing it, but for growth, even for housing and that, we're not going to. So that's what I'm looking at. How do you get there over the next 3 to 5 years? And I'm looking 5 to 10, because I don't want to come back saying, hey, well, we drilled it. Now, how we do that, for Mark, for you and Rick, is that if we, right now, we're running about 22 hours a day on a pump, because we pump, distribute to the city, and then we fill the tank. If we did it the other way, we could turn that pump down, and we would not be sucking or drawing as hard on a water source. But we do have the alluvial permits right now. So I think we can do that, and it would make it more efficient than the way it's running right now.
And Aaron, if you could bring your water right information on our meeting on the 25th, and we'll kind of browse through it.
Did you hear that, Aaron?
Yeah, I had to. I was thinking about the GSI, Mark, but I'm okay. I will pull what our engineers has done out of our conservation plan. Is it right? You're probably more expert on that. So we do have IRZ looking at that, so they're also evaluating that. But I'll bring that, Mark.
Other topics of discussion, I assume if we can sell 100 acres at the CDA, that we're the owners. Is that correct?
No, we cannot sell it. The CDA can sell it.
CDA.
With we have a purchase and sale agreement. No, we can't.
The Port of Morrow will not get that. So the money, actually, sorry to digress on the agenda, then the money that would be gained from selling that land, whether it's on Morrow County side or Umatilla County side, would really go to the CDA.
Depending on when it's sold.
And
yes.
not to the port. Okay.
Yep.
Well, I think that's to help pay for some bills.
Yeah.
Which operating costs.
Sure. Okay, all right.
Yeah. Aaron asked about hotels. Have we just added some space for hotels on Fred's map. Has that happened before, where the spot is there before the hotel ever came?
My recollection.
Right now.
Right now.
We do, but in the past, we've had to adjust our zone to accommodate.
Yeah.
So if we know that they have a project coming forward, we can make that request to change the boundaries of the enterprise to encompass that property.
I mean, it's interesting history, but the first enterprise zone that we didn't have a hotel and motel designation in it. We added it in the next one. And then we've got a couple of hotel projects, but.
Yeah, and hotels are the only commercial business that will qualify for an enterprise zone, no other commercial. And it can only be 3 years.
So the mapping is not done then in your.
Well, I think he was saying that there's a zone boundary with a physical legal description.
Okay.
And therefore there's a map.
Okay.
Paid off that legal description. So I think what Aaron was referring to, that there's no enterprise zones area included in the ordinance, or excuse me, the area.
But are there any projects that qualify for enterprise zone at this point? I mean, because I'm assuming as soon as there's a project, we bring it for the board and we'll make those
Right,
changes.
and if we've done in the past.
Yeah.
But that's on a big project, I would say. If we're talking hotels.
Yeah.
Can we put the hotel designation there before there's even talk, like Aaron is asking?
Right, well, hotel designation is different than including, it still has to be inside the physical boundary of the zone. So we already have the designation, I believe, to include hotels.
We do.
Just the zone boundary, the property where the hotel's going needs to be included in the zone boundary. So there's kind of two things going on.
Okay.
And Chris has taken those actions based on specific requests.
Yeah.
Can we just do one down here in Boardman?
We did.
And we did the Lexington one.
Yeah. Well, the one in Boardman is prospectively, though.
Mhm.
We didn't have, this is, and which we were happy to do, I think, because we had boundary to give and we can adjust and all that, but I don't know if that's what Aaron's asking for there or not, if he wants prospective.
And maybe that's a incentive, if it's sitting there and we're not using it for anything else, at the moment, we've got lots of land. Maybe putting it there is an enticement for someone to look at that property.
So on the one in Boardman, getting to the weeds, there is a prospective project that's proposed.
Yeah,
They came and asked to
Yeah.
locate it there, so that's why there was a change. There's more than one, yeah, there's more than one, so. Anyway.
Either way, it's fine by me.
Yeah, Aaron.
This is really an easy request. So if you look at it, it says over the next 3 to 6 months to get together so that all entities, just like Commissioner Sykes, as a CREZ member, and that got some land and some mapping down in Lexington. We also heard that there's potential that Greg Smith with the CDA said there's some potential there. Is that in Umatilla County or is that in Morrow? But he's also alluded to that there could be stuff on the Morrow County side. The action here is to get to the table so it's not just kicking down a proverbial rock down the road, say I'm working on it, is to say how we're going to lay this out. That's the next 3 to 6 months. That's what the request is. And then say, where do we need to put it? Or we're just going to hold it up there. There's a process you have to work through. Can it be done? Because you got to notify all entities, including special districts, and then it's got to go to the Business Oregon. I know what Commissioner Stokel is saying. Well, if you have something, I'm going to strongly disagree and say that's what's frustrating across the whole county. Boardman seems to move and adjust things really fast. What's the stinking problem?
The issue too of affected, you mentioned in the letter, affected, what am I trying to say, what's the terminology I'm looking for? Affected
Area of influence.
area of influence, thank you, area of influence. That's something we can also talk about. Oregon's area of influence can include the CDA properties. Whereas we extended this area of influence in Boardman to the Boardman Airport. I don't see, it's a discussion we can have in the future, I'm sure, or sometime in the near future about that area of influence going to CDA for Oregon, so they can have some say in local development there. And then the last thing I would bring up is the fire service. I've said this in the past, I know, and like I said before, I mean, no disrespect to Oregon Fire, but Oregon needs a tax base to grow their service, and that's going to be my my take on it. I would entertain conversation on it now or at a later time, but sometimes we're the property owner, and county commissioners have said they entertain or take into consideration the property owner's request for who serves there as fire service. I would ask that the commissioners start thinking about that. When it does become our property, then I'd like to have a robust discussion about it, please. So, yeah.
Yes, Lisa.
Aaron and I have talked about several of these items on this list previously, but I thought I'd just let you know that track 2 is the north-south road. So that's 60 feet outside of the boundary is the next transfer from the Army to the CDA. that request is in. It needed a lot of survey work, it needed cleanup work. So that will run an additional 60 feet, outside of the current fence line for a north-south road. So certainly we would probably be back out to look at, federal and state funding to help fund the paving of the road north and south. That one is easy. We've talked about the 640 acres a few times and about whether that should be EFU or industrial. I would say that right off the bat, I suggested to Aaron, there is a triangle piece that has not been, it's not in the purchase and sale agreement currently. It's the triangle piece on the other side of the canal, and I really do believe that the city of Oregon should go to CDA and ask for that property and get that secured to the city of Oregon. 13 acres would house their water reservoir and additional well if needed in that location or piping. So it's out there and available, still owned by CDA.
Isn't it?
We missed it when we did the legal description for the transfer.
And it's on that funny little corner.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it part of a circle? Am I remembering wrong?
No.
No. It's not
No,
important.
it's a little triangle that is all by itself, and when we dismissed it. So it's still there, and I think that we
It's on
should,
the other side of the canal.
Yeah, it's on
Yeah.
the north side.
other side.
And just east, just west.
So Aaron, what do you think of that?
To be honest, and even anything north of the canal has that nice word, starts with an N. And we're very, very leery of it. And so right now, no, that's not a healthy thing. I know people can say, well, it doesn't have, well, I'm going to call it as a La Guama member. It's not about agriculture per se. The BOR in our irrigation has not been brought to the table. They are a great contributor, that and probably some land use stuff. So I say that in deference to our agriculture. There's things that people have done and all that have put contaminants, and it's not per se primarily agriculture, let alone I don't think it's the port. And I think people need to be honest and then begin to have the dialogue instead of pointing fingers. But right now, those canals add extra nitrate stuff that if you go look and do demographics underground, just like mountains, it's pooling. And nitrate levels are very hot. Let me give you an example of that. Just south of the city, south of the school district on Division, it's 100 parts per million. We already know that, we've tested it. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Hopefully that doesn't gravitate into any of the wells that are in the area, however it flows. There's some concern. Where we've looked at on that 640, it's a clean area. We also know from the records that well that they've used and still have it, it's pure clean water. That river is nice, and it's 100 gallons a minute. I mean, 1,000 gallons a minute.
So there's a well already out there on the 640?
I don't know.
I think there's one towards, not on the 640.
I didn't
If I
think
remember
so.
looking
There's
at
only
that, there's
6
one
wells
way-
on the CDA property, right? There's 6,
Something like that.
and 3 are controlled by the military.
Yeah.
So there's not, I didn't remember ever seeing that well out there. But I will say something, the canal, Aaron, is that the CI West Extension Canal?
Yes,
Because West Extension tests their water all the time, and they're getting water out of the Umatilla and the Columbia when they pump. And it's routinely less than 0.03, so I don't know that the canal is an issue there or the issue there. necessarily, because that water is tested.
Yeah.
Regularly.
That was my test too.
Yeah.
Not to argue too much with the area, but I tested the canal here in Morgan.
Yeah, and they
And
tested.
it was hardly even tested.
All I was trying to say about the 640 acres and the 13-acre parcel is we've had the conversation. There's some things that Erigan would like to do on the 640 that could be compatible with whatever we'd like to do there. But we don't own the property right now. And right now, the 13 acres is not in contention. It is not part of a lawsuit. CDA owns it, and it's very likely that a request to CDA to go to the city of Eureka would probably be approved.
But did I
And it's
understand?
certainly enough property for a water reservoir and water buildings. I mean, the city system over here sits on about 5 acres.
But did I understand Aaron right? That he wasn't interested?
He's afraid of the nitrates and the alluvial. But that's not proven yet either too, so that's, until you drill it, you don't know, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
It wouldn't be his first.
thanks, everyone.
Okay.
I just wanted to discuss the letter. Thanks, Aaron, for the summary and
Thank you,
so we're, things going forward, thinking about these other communities. So, thank you.
Yes. Okay, let's see. Moving on, Morrow County Assessor presentation. Go ahead, Mike.
Everybody's about to sleep.
Do you want to find this break right now?
Yeah.
You know, you're 5 minutes right now.
Another 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's take a 5-minute recess.
Michael, what
So. Okay, so it's 3:54. We have a recess, we are on, item. Oh, looks like Steve, new business, Morrow County Assessor. Go ahead.
All right, I'm gonna stand here, that's okay, I don't have my presentation memorized, so I've got to look at it. But when I get out of line, Eileen gets back me and put me back in shape, so. For those of you that remember from last year when I gave this, there's not a lot of changes. Hasn't really been a lot of action, couple significant things, when we get to it. But it's basically just gonna be a repeat of last year, so go ahead. Taxable value, the county, just under $4 billion. Our market value grew quite a bit. And the large exemptions, SIP exempted at 1.1 billion and enterprise zone almost 6 billion. For, I guess, Greg left and so did Chief Hughes, but, for those districts that I gave budget estimates to about this time last year, you probably noticed that the actual taxes that came and values that came at time of certification were quite a bit lower. That was, I'd estimated like over a $4 billion, I think it was 4.1 or $4.2 billion value for like the countywide districts and maybe for some of the local districts here in the Boardman area. Overestimated. I was short of my estimate due to some modeling I do when I do budget estimates for value. The 2 original Amazon sites, what I call Lewis and Clark, one and Ricky Road, those are out of exemption now. And I've been modeling the value of them over the last 10 years, and they experienced a much steeper or aggressive depreciation amount this year than I had anticipated. Between those 2 sites, it lost about $380 million in value. And the county aside from that, grew about $250 million in value, from the previous year. And so that's where, you know, I wasn't anticipating that much of a decrease in those two Amazon sites, so that $380 million just wiped out the 250 that we gained and then some. So we end up having a lower taxable value for 2024 than we did in 2023. That was just due to some aggressive depreciation, from those two Amazon sites.
How does that determine, sure?
Well, the Department of Revenue values those,
Okay.
and so those two legacy sites, well, and let me back up a little bit. Since, my estimate didn't jive with, what really happened, I, of course, reached out to the Department of Revenue and saying, hey, maybe we ought to meet a little bit, maybe during the year and kind of clue me in on what's going on, because Amazon's such a large component of county's value that, you know, this kind of got me into some trouble. And I want to try to keep from doing that again. So, now meeting with the Department of Revenue and Amazon, meeting together, we just met a couple of weeks ago to go over, you know, the assumptions for this year's valuation. So that will be helpful in the future. Hopefully, my budget estimates for districts will be a little more, usable this year. So, anyway, back to your question, Joel, those two legacy sites, you know, were built at the, you know, there's been technology advances since then.
Right.
And so they've got X amount of electricity coming, and their servers now are double what they were back 10 years ago. So they only have electricity for X amount of servers, and it only fills up about half the building.
Okay.
So that's the issue. Half of the building's vacant space unusable because they just don't have the bandwidth to put enough equipment in there. So that's why the value is strong. Even though they're reinvesting, you know, with new equipment, it's just, has more capacity, which I guess therefore makes it cheaper, and they don't need the space.
Are you notified when they upgrade that equipment? Is that something?
Well,
that
yeah,
changes out
they
routine?
report, any of their additions or retirements to the Department of Revenue. Department of Revenue, then, you know, creates a value. So the total properties, total certified property taxes to collect, for the county, that's for all districts, 57 million. Morrow County portion's a little over 16, and, you know, we're kind of regressing now, as far as tax collections go. The bulk of the collections came right around the week of the 15th. Now, for about the last 7 or 8 years, as soon as I send tax statements out in mid-October, taxes start rolling in. Last couple of years, it's changed. It's, you know, people are not paying them until right at the due date. So, you know, we'll collect, you know, 40 to 45 million of that 57 million in about 3 days. And that keeps us busy. When I made this slide back in December, there was about $3 million of current year taxes left to collect. That is actually changed. It's about 1.5 million now. It's almost down to, less than 1.5 million. Go ahead. Just comparing this year to last year, you know, last year we had about $20–30 million more value than we did this year. I already went over that. Therefore our certified tax is lower, because, you know, our value is lower. Market value increased just because, there's Amazon with some of their newer sites are coming online, and you know, doesn't add to our taxable value, but it does add to our market value. Wasn't that long ago that the county's market value was hit $1 billion, and now we're over 10. Property taxes generally, this is just tax rates, in properties inside the city limits of Oregon went down this year, just because that's not property taxes, tax rates, don't get those two confused. Could be a lower tax bill for some people, but tax rates went down because the city, levied a lower bond amount. And there was also, the city also created a new urban renewal area, which for those of you that are familiar with urban renewal, it's kind of complicated, but the area is basically the new, Tidewater subdivision here. Such. Outer Boardman is a few cents higher than last year due to Boardman Fire District levying a little higher, bond amount. Outer Aragon is a few cents lower. I believe the city of Aragon is also was a little higher because they levied a little more on their bond amount. City of Hebner still has their own issue with their very high tax rate. And the properties in the Ione School District increased a little bit because of their bond levy. And the problem with the Ione School District and that bond, I should say problem, one of the issues is that it's mostly resource ground, you know, farm ground, and they don't have a lot of value, industrial value. The biggest industrial value component is the natural gas pipeline, and that the value for that has been dropping significantly in the last several years. Okay, go ahead. Oh, I already got that myself. Maybe I do have to memorize, it's not in order. Rural South County, a few cents lower than last year. Oregon Department of Forestry Fire Patrol charges. So for privately owned forest ground, like in the south portions of the county, we collect a per acre fee for the state Department of Forestry for fire protection. Those rates have been increasing significantly over the last several years, and then, you know, we had some pretty significant wildfires last summer, and did not get a lot of support from the Oregon Department of Forestry fighting those. I think they're just spread way too thin. There was fires all across the state, you know, there's a lot of my phone at tax time. I was on the phone with all those large landowners, you know, that lost all of their grazing, most of their timber, and even, you know, portions of their cattle herds. So the wildfires last summer really affected a lot of people. All right, our SIT, Shepherd's Flat, their payment was $1.4 million, 500,000 that is community service fee. The county participates in a portion of the community service fee and then keeps the additional amount. The exempt taxes were a little over 6 million, exempt value, 380 million. You know, when the original company sold that project to Brookfield Renewables, which is a Canadian company, and Brookfield Renewables repowered with some newer blades and turbines a couple of years ago, really brought up the value. Must have really increased the efficiency of that project because the value is almost doubling. So it's a good thing.
So does the state do that value too?
Yep. 2 years remaining on their exemption. I don't expect in 2 years their value to be 382 million. You know, the Department of Revenue uses their property tax incentive as part of the valuation of the property too. It's what makes it successful. So we've noticed with some of the other wind projects that have came off of exemption, specifically the Echo Wind Project and the Willow Creek Wind Project, that once they come out of extension, they're not worth very much. You know, that 10 cents on the dollar. But, hopefully with the reinvestment that Brookfield Renewables did, that the project will still be profitable for them. And even though they don't have an tax exemption anymore, and hopefully we'll be able to capture some of that value. That will definitely help my school district in the, for their properties that pay into that bond. EGE Carney Cogen plant, there's a predetermined payment schedule. The county does not participate in the community service fee. And it's funny how the value for that plant keeps going down. You know, it was a $600 or $700 million plant back in, when it came online in 2017 or 18, and, you know, now it's less than 400 million. You know, it's the way, you know, back in the coal-fired plant days, the value of the coal-fired plant would go up and down too in this one, so. And I think they're, yeah, so they got like 7 years left, for their exemption. Wheat Ridge, were permitted originally, and their SIP agreement was for 550 megawatts of power. We built 300, and right now they're in the middle of constructing the other 250. That they're about 2/3 built, I think. I had a meeting with the next era people this morning. That project is supposed to come online in June or July, the remaining 250 megawatts. Anyway, their community service fee, there's two, let me back up a little bit here. I'm sorry if I'm stumbling, it's been a long day. PG owns a portion of it, 100 megawatts, and NextEra owns 200 megawatts of the wind. So PGE's portion, I'm going to slow down a little bit here. The community service fee is 165,000 and an additional amount of 529,000. County does not share the community service fee. The exempt tax amounts $1.5 million, and the exempt value is just short of 130 million. Now we'll go to the next era portion. So it's basically a 1/3, 2/3 type split. Their portion community service fee is 335,000, an additional amount of just over $1 million. And then there's also the solar component where they paid an additional $432,500. So the exempt tax amount between the two, little over $5 million, and an exempt value of between the solar and both components of the wind is about 400 million.
Mike, I'll show my ignorance of the SIP program, because I guess I don't understand it as much as I thought. Community service fee, like on this one, $143 million additional amount, $114,000 additional amount of 9,350. Is that paid yearly?
Yes.
And the county does not share it. Where does that go to? Just the taxing district?
Yes. So with an SIP, the community service fee is a fee that's in statute. And the districts, the affected taxing districts, vote on how to disperse that. And excluding schools are left out of the mix because they're held harmless with the funding formula.
So when it says county does not share in that, is that because of the vote of the taxing districts?
Well, the county gets a vote as well. And so,
And when did that happen, do you remember? Because originally they did not have a vote.
well, maybe they don't have a vote. Maybe they do. I can't remember exactly.
Well, originally, the taxing districts just met.
I don't think so.
Right.
And they decided,
Uh-huh.
and this is what was really decided. And then just overnight one year, they were running the meeting. So I didn't know if they just, maybe there was an OAR that said that they could. And they decided to.
Yeah, I can't remember, you've asked me this before, and I can't remember what the answer was, I don't think.
Because all 2.8% of the vote one time. Probably not even that big, but.
All I know is that every FIP that I've been a part of as assessor and tax collector, I have put together the meeting because no one else would. And so that's why maybe it's my fault that the county is voting against the ball. But I worked with from Business Oregon says you have to have this meeting. If you don't, the Business Oregon Commission will decide for you.
That is true. If you don't get an agreement with 75%, then the state gets to decide.
And the county commissioners and county administration's okay with me doing all the initial work apparently.
So community fees or the Amazon site on the Bobbing Range Road out here. That, once that one meeting happened with the affected taxing districts, that sets the formula going forward from then on, right?
Yep, unless they were to all meet again and decide something different.
Okay.
Which could happen.
How that work. Thank you.
Yes, and that's a public meeting. That meeting is actually held at Irrigan. As part of the county commission meeting.
Where do the SIP payments go though?
The additional monies go to the county.
County.
You know, they've been feeding, public works with that. They, you know, use some to build the Morrow building in Kepner, and use some of those funds to build, the Irrigan Annex, other things. You have to drill down into their budget process, to figure out exactly where all those dollars are.
But they're the county.
And they did, whether it's enterprise zone or SIP, the county gives up the biggest portion of tax dollars. 25% of every tax dollar the county gets, and that funds my department, that values, collects, and distributes taxes to all taxing districts, including the port, the cities, fire districts, cemeteries, schools, so they support that, they support, sheriff's office, planning department, public health. General tax dollars cannot be used for, roads. That's why they've been using some of, these additional monies. There's no sideboards on them like general tax dollars are to help fund roads. I will say this, up until about 4 or 5 years ago, every November, there'd be some large landowner or several large landowners, even small landowners, farmers, ranchers come in and pay their tax bill and want their county road graded in front of their house, and, chew on me and call me all kinds of names.
Oh, we can do that?
Yeah, and I'm not saying it was you, Joel. Maybe one of your brothers, anyway, but the last 4 or 5 years, I haven't had that a lot. Because the county has been shoving a lot of extra, almost doubling the road department's budget. Strictly, the road department gets funded through gas tax dollars, and that distribution is really flawed because it goes by, population and number of vehicles registered. So Multnomah County, who has the least amount of county roads in the state, gets 70% of the gas tax dollars. And counties like, Gilman, Morrow, Wheeler, Grant have, some of the most county roads and the most need for, county road improvements get, not much. So anyway, no rant on county roads. Orchard Wind is a small project just west of, what was the Echo project? It's only like 48 megawatts, 16 towers. Part of it's on where you grew up, Joe.
Oh, okay. I was wondering what they call that.
Yeah, so, anyway, they have a predetermined payment schedule, and The community service fee is scalable depending on, it's 25% of the exempt taxes. So it's such a small project where the community service fee isn't very large. So it's 25% of the exempt taxes. And for a long time, there was a cap at 500,000. Now the cap's at 2.5 million. So like with the PDX 178 project out there in Bonnie Range of Amazons, that community service fee is going to be $2.5 million that's getting distributed to all the districts. The county is going to participate, and that will start this year. I kind of touch on how that community service fee getting distributed to districts is helpful for the Wheat Ridge project. Hefner Rural Fire District's part of that. And Hefner Rural Fire District, their regular levy's about, I don't know, 72 or 74 cents per thousand. They collect about $80,000-$90,000 a year in taxes. They get over 140,000 from the community service fee.
They get more than them.
They get more than, yes. And of course, they would get more if it were fully taxable, but, you know, it just, the community service fee, on SIP is a good thing. Also, in SIP, there's a certain percentage of the project that's taxable right off the get-go. In this case, in all of our SIP during exemptions prior to the Amazon PDX 178, the taxable amount was $25 million, and then it gets indexed up 3% a year for the life of the exemption. Now, that taxable amount is scalable as well with the amount of investment, and the PDX 178 has enough investment that its taxable amount is 100 million. So we're automatically going to get $100 million in value for the SIP exemption for PDX 178 that we wouldn't necessarily would at all get if it were an enterprise zone exemption.
How do you keep track of all?
How do I keep track of all?
It's his job.
I go on a roll for a while and then I start stumbling and it's so we'll move on to enterprise zone. Land West and they got, I think, 4 years left. And they make a payment to the Crest Board, $950,000. They have, I think, $100,000 of that they can direct spend to entities within the county, buyback option. This was about a $220 million investment in 2014. Their current value is about 142. So, you know, things depreciate over time. And we don't, when they come out of exemption, we don't necessarily capture all that value, but we did capture some funds from them during the exemption period. Morrow County Grain Growers, about a $7 million investment for their grain rail car offloading thing. For the most part, that exemption expired in 2024. They have a little bit of value left. They're going to claim 2025, but it's pretty much over. That really helped them to get that project off the ground. Being able to forego those property taxes for 5 years is really been a good thing. WOF ENW Fruitmill project is where they're out at Fruitmill Organic Farms, where they're capturing methane from cattle waste and then cleaning it and injecting it into the gas pipeline to be burnt at the Cardi Cogen plant. It's a partnership between 3 Mile Canyon Farms and Resilient, company from Portland area, I believe, and it's the last year of their exemption as well. About $37 million investment in that project. Right. Right. So we'll talk about Amazon now. Like I said, the 2024, we had 5 sites that were operating. The first 2, don't have an exemption anymore. The remaining 3, I call it, Lewis and Clark 2, which is the junction between Lewis and Clark and Highway 730, Olson Road, just over here, next to the motel, here next to town, and then Gar Swanson, you guys know where that's at. All 3 of these, have 15-year long-term rural enterprise zone exemptions, and I thought they were all identical, agreements as far as their payments go. Until this year, when I found that I missed a couple of payments on the Gar Swanson side that were additions. Amazon did miss them as well, which doesn't surprise me, but they fessed up once I brought it to their attention. Like I said, all these have a payment schedule of $1 million per building, with a minimum payment of $2 million per year, and then, kind of like an additional payment calculation, on the first 25 million, kind of similar to an SRP. So they paid, over 5 million to the, and none of these 3 agreements, excuse me, have any of the bonding language. So these are the 2 prior Amazon sites did have bonding language, and then the 5 or 6 subsequent ones do have bonding language, so just these 3 don't. So over $5 million in the fee, and then $387,000 additional amount. Basically, that's $25 million times the tax rate in that area is how we come up with that number.
Isn't there one of those, Mike, that has an option to do the bonding fee? If I remember.
Oh, it is, you're right, that is the Gar Swanson side. I think you're right, yes. So just to pick on Amazon, total exempt tax amount is about $83 million. That's more than I levied. So, you know, if you kind of do the math, remember back to one of the first slides, we had $11 million RMV and a just under $4 billion AV. So you kind of do that math, and that's about how much it's like almost $6 billion. And you can skip through this. This was for commissioners. Okay, so do total payments to the treasurer. Now, these were before any buybacks or direct spending, so credit board didn't actually have 15 million, they had 14 million change. So 15 million and almost 16 in bond payment, or excuse me, in credit payments, 300,000 in bond payments, total exempt tax amount 86 million, and total exempt value is just under 6 billion. Up 20 taxpayers for the county. It looks very similar to last year's. Amazon's number 1, and then you can add up the other 19, and they don't even come close to number 1. That went fast, that's okay. The port,
Sorry, I'm just like, people want to look at that little.
well, I just wanted to, the Port of Morrow is on that list as well. Now, the port only pays taxes on, the property that they lease to taxable owners, so, you know, it's not costing. Just, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, you can smack me if you need to, but hopefully the port is, you know, recouping those taxes with their, you know, services they're providing to those properties, so.
The way it's supposed to work.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, you can go there.
Everybody good now?
Yep.
So John looks like he's still looking, so.
And so, kind of a 10-year snapshot, countywide for history, value, market value, taxable value, and certified tax, so, you know, scroll back 10 years, our RFB was 3.6 billion, our AV was 2 billion, and I tried to collect 32 million in taxes. You know, fast forward to today, we've got $11 billion RFB, 4 billion, you know, all the double AV and all the double certified tax, so I'm heading in the right direction. Absolutely. Until this year, we kind of went the wrong direction a little bit, but hopefully we will continue that upward trend. And I think I made some pretty graphs here. You can just illustrate the spreadsheet I had for go ahead. And I think I threw some port specific information here at the end. Well, you know, over the last several years, the value increases is mostly from, you know, new industrial development, you know, mostly from Amazon. But there's been other investment too, and there's been a lot of commercial and residential development, especially in the north end of the county, both Boardman and Marion. Got Dollar Generals, Family Dollars, and we even have a Dollar General in Hebron. And, you know, 100 lot subdivisions. I never thought I'd see the day where Morrow County would have 100 lot subdivision, and Tidewater subdivision next door is 100 lots. There are, talking with other counties, even, you know, some larger counties around the valley, you know, Benton, Lane, Yam Hill, Polk, they've never seen 100 lot subdivisions in their county, so it's kind of cool. You know, out in Tuscany, continue to develop that, River Ridge, you know, more phases. So all that's been contributing to the increase in value. Just, you know, it takes a lot of brand new $300,000 houses to equal one Amazon campus store. Okay, so here, a snapshot of the port, specifically their taxable, their taxable AV and the county's taxable AV is the same because it's county-wide district. The only difference is your certified tax is lower because, you know, 8 or 9 cents, 8 cents, what's 8 cents, yeah. So, but, you know, similar to the counties, it's almost double. So, so which can we expect, 2025? You know, we're still seeing new development, there's still new houses being built, we're still seeing, you know, certificate of occupancies weekly, for new houses. And, Amazon is working on 2 or 3 different sites currently. 178 is just about done. They're starting on out here at second Swanson site, correct, Mark?
Mm-hmm.
And they're getting ready to start out at the airport. So, I still think we're going to see increases, but until some of these large industrial properties come out of exemption, we're not gonna see huge jumps in value. But we're gonna be going in the right direction. So. A lot of information, really fast. Anybody have any questions?
I don't know. Interesting, huh? Probably the news.
Now the board will just figure out a way to get its roots on that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is strategic planning.
This is just obviously to let you know that it's time for us to do this again. Take a look at the old one. I think that we should go out for a request for proposals from contractors to supply that service to us this year. It might give us a different look. Maybe we'll end up with the same company we had before, I don't know. But I think we should go through that process if you agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do.
And to be honest, I have not looked at what the port planning and marketing dollars are this year, but I'll find out. I want to say on the 5-year, I think we got $75,000, right? We'll let you know.
On our previous, strategic plan, how we did it, did we have a SWOT analysis in there? Did we meet and talk about things? And I can't remember if we did or not.
We did as a board. Also, they set up interviews in the community and brought people in one by one and talked to them.
Okay, yeah, I think we should sit as a board, and talk with them about those kinds of things.
Anything else on that?
That's it.
Anything, any other new business?
We still have a lot of meeting left for you. Apologies.
Is there anything that we don't need to, since it's?
We do need to have executive session and we have attorneys that are
Good.
good or not good.
So, Mr. Chair, I think we can all review, if we haven't already, our staff reports and we probably forego these other things if we haven't.
I don't think we were.
Projects are going good, lagoons are going well.
Yeah.
You're on target.
You're on target.
Was there much of any pictures, from maintenance or?
We have pictures.
Have pictures.
It's from the.
I wouldn't mind seeing them. Okay.
All of our stuff dropped off. And just FYI, Kim Pepper sent a message and said there was nothing to report and she wasn't available, so look, that's all.
Okay, well, we can, other than these pictures here, we can bypass all this stuff.
Have you been out there for?
I have, yeah. Looks good for
It's
next
starting to
time.
look like something out there.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
We don't have to see all of them, but if there's any.
Just go ahead and click on it.
I heard Joe's out there testing out the drag strip, so.
It's kind of surprised to hear how much that speed.
Yeah. That's farm 2, that's the connection from IWW from their lagoons. And it'll tie back into our southwest station and take it out the other direction.
Okay, say that again, Mark.
That's the lines, the IWW line, going from
Industrial wastewater.
industrial wastewater, going from PDX 178 on farm 2. So that's out, that's your division out there. And it'll tie back into our current line that comes down to our south lip.
Gotcha.
They'll be able to run water also back from 90 up to that lagoon. Yeah, we're trying to get through all the circles before March 1st.
That makes sense.
But that isn't needing to be completed until next year. We can't take water from. On Creek Pond, it's really starting to look like something.
Yeah, the site come headed west from here.
Yeah.
It's got quite a run.
Yeah. And so the liner's scheduled to start in April on that project. We're just now starting farm lagoon 4, farm 4 lagoon. And it will start, the liners will start in June. So they go, it's gonna stack up and go really quick up there. Farm 5, they finished up the manifold building. We still got a couple of freshwater connections to make up there, but it's almost done. Farm 6, that is all but complete. We still got to run some pressure tests. We're waiting for the weather to warm up. But we'll be prepared to run on Farm 6 in March 1st. Airport Road. It is a dragster. Oh, I know, my surprised the high school kids have a family.
Well, they have.
Oh, okay.
And the little
Which high school kids?
the ones with the air spoiler things that they go past the house.
They have started, farm concrete on distribution building and they're gonna get a tank. The tank's scheduled to start, construction February 24th, so week after next. That's the Gar Swanson expansion on that road. We had to remove a ton of the existing utilities in that right of way. Right of way is not very wide there. That's scheduled to be completed in July of this year. A lot going on there.
Those mostly installed by port employees or?
No, we've got a lot of it spread out to contractors. We're doing farm 2, we're doing all our farm, so farm 2, farm 5, farm 6. We're doing. Which one was that?
Well, sir.
Oh, well 6. Yeah, that's the new well out on East Beach.
That's down by the grain elevator.
That's down by the grain elevator.
Okay.
AWS paid for drilling that well to help support water. Yeah, they're like 300 feet long.
And the really big ones are gonna be here beginning of March.
So we're getting a lot more interest in big moves like this. Okay.
All right, good, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Any this to go then? What else do you guys want to look at? Any other reports, staff, were okay? Yeah, any financial questions, Will? Okay.
Well, the question came up about how do we know we can keep paying our bills? And so if you look at the cash.
I accept it.
I might have been involved.
Okay, so if you look at the cash sheet and on the right side, past the 2 lines, you'll see at the end of January, our unrestricted cash was $15.5 million. With the last loan agreement we got from WIFIA, we're required to maintain 2 months operating budget reserve. And so that would be 6.7 million. But best practices indicate that you should maintain 3 months operating budget, which would be right at 10 million. So either way, we're doing fine on our unrestricted cash. The second column, the funds are either reserved for debt service or they are reserved for our capital projects. So we currently have about 73 million left earmarked out of the most recent financing for wastewater improvements, and 4.8 million of our older borrowing, which was, we called it digester reserve, but it was also wastewater improvements as well. As far as our activity goes, we are skating the edge. Well, our insurance costs went up a lot. this year. Our standard policy went from 568,000 to 808,000. In addition, we added pollution control coverage of another 34,000. And the warehouseman coverage also increased in price. So, we will definitely be needing a increased, amount on our insurance costs in the upcoming budget. And the rest of it is still testing and permits, which includes all of our consultants. So those are the two areas. You'll see that after January, if we were right on budget, we'd be at 58.33%. We're at 58.75%. So we're kind of on the wrong side of that number a little bit. And when we get closer to the end of the year, we will let you know whether we think we need appropriation transfer.
Right. Okay, I should cover everything before we get going here for executive session. Anything else from anybody? Okay, so let me read this executive session bit. The board will hold the executive session meeting for the permissible reasons stated below under ORS 192.6602. Representatives of the news media and designated staff and other persons shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience will be asked to leave the room. The public virtual Zoom meeting link will be closed during the executive session as permissible executive session meetings are not subject to HB 2560. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision will be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session and welcome the audience back into the room in person and open the public virtual Zoom meeting link. A, for the purpose of consideration of deliberations with the port's executive director and other staff members who have been designated by the port to negotiate real property transactions, ORS 192.660, 2E. B, for the purpose of consultation with counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of the public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed, ORS 192.66028. With that, we will recess our regular meeting at 4:44, and we'll go right into executive session. So it looks like it's 5:15. We're going to reconvene our open session. All commissioners and city staff are here. I have Sam Tucker on Zoom. So yes, go ahead.
Okay, my question has to do with bills from the CDA with the suspended grant funds from OLDCC. I think, can you explain how we're paying our bills and what bills we might have and money we have or don't have?
Okay, so Umatilla County has not paid their batch since 9/30/23, so a little over a year now. They have not been paying their 20%, the match. The tribes did not pay their amount that they were billed for the quarter ending June 30th. And then we get into the quarter ending 9/30. So we have not actually invoiced OLDCC for even the grant money. At the time, there were some problems. There was a staffing change and there were some problems with the performance report that was filed. And they said we couldn't submit until the performance report was corrected. And that occurred. And then what I didn't realize was there was still a problem with access to the payment portal. And so current staff at CDA were unable to access it. So About this time, then we were contacted about the review, the compliance review for the OLDCC. And, I indicated that I had tried to get information about access. And they said, oh yeah, we have your email from last week. And I said, yeah, but I'm being told by CDA staff that she's been trying for months. Well, they're really caught up in the fact that it is Port of Morrow's grant, Port of Morrow's problem, and that I'm the one that should access the payment portal. So they have sent me an email. I have not gone through the steps yet because at that time, we received notification that they weren't going to deal with any payments until they got done with the compliance review. So that's where we're at. So we have spent money that we would have expected to be reimbursed, totaling $479,614. We account for the CDA in the site segment of our general ledger, so that's where those expenses are showing up, or under site. In addition, we have paid 50% of the invoices that Schwabe billed CDA, which indicate it's for the Umatilla County litigation. So that's the $69,542.58. And I shouldn't have put the whole 40,000 because I'm not really sure who's going to pay the 40,000, but that's the new attorney that CDA hired for employment-related issues. And that is what they have invoiced today. So I'm probably overstating this by, well, I don't know. I don't know. So they have talked to us about doing more of their outside of the grant bill paying and collections because they've lost staff. And I haven't seen the bank statements yet. I know how much money they say they have in the bank, but I can't go telling somebody to write a check till I have all the information for CDA. So currently we haven't paid, well, we've only had it a week too, but we haven't paid that last invoice listed there. But, yeah, and like Lisa said, we did contact them on Monday. He said that he hoped to have it back to us by Friday, but he wasn't promising. And she tried to get him to commit to what way the wind was blowing, and he didn't bite.
This is the compliance review you're talking about?
Yeah.
Is the feeling that if the lawsuit is settled happily or something, some such thing, that our partners will again contribute or not?
So that's the feeling, talk that I got, yeah, if it gets settled. But
This is frustrating to me. We have an intergovernmental
I'm
agreement.
gonna interrupt.
Okay,
I'm not seeing where this is on our agenda. to even discuss this matter.
It's CDA.
Well, but we've already discussed CDA in a public forum and moved on. So.
Right.
I'm just.
Okay, well, whatever.
I'm just a little uncomfortable with it. Maybe we should have had, if we were gonna discuss this, that when we had a full house and it was under CDA, then maybe we should have discussed it then. I just don't want to get in the jam that we probably, even if we adjusted our agenda, I would feel a lot better about it, but I just confirm, it's not on our agenda, and we did go past the CDA update. And it got an update from CDA.
Okay, I forgot to ask, so that's my fault.
we did, wouldn't you count this as, hey, you know, we forgot to talk about something, well, we got some more questions.
We're back in open session.
We are, but
With
there's
active.
nobody here.
No, there's nobody on, right?
I mean, so does this look like,
We kicked it to the end, still everybody was on and.
Yeah.
I discussed it. I mean,
Well, okay.
not that we can't, but I am uncomfortable with it, just. I think it's something we need to discuss because those numbers are.
Large. Well, then maybe we'll just cease the discussion now and then continue it next week, if that's all right. Thank you.
yeah,
I don't.
I mean, I'm okay with going forward myself. I feel that it's on there, but I can go with the rest of the.
I will defer to the rest of the commission. I'm just uncomfortable with it.
Well, we're kind of into it already anyway, but let's, and I have the information that I was looking for and so I'm okay with ending the discussion and continuing with the next meeting if that's all with everybody else. I don't want to put ourselves in jeopardy, so that's fine.
I would agree.
Do you like me to add it to the next agenda?
Yeah,
Specifically, instead of just CDA update, specifically CDA bills, or will we all remember that we want to talk about it, just as CDA update?
No, I think under CDA.
Okay, I just don't want us to forget about it.
No, I don't either, but, and hopefully we'll have better news then. too.
That'll be after a CDA meeting.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so then we have, executive items. That we went into executive session.
but I guess also, Rick, and you know, to carry on the same thought, we don't have these on our agenda either.
But that was something that, we're coming out of the executive session to take action upon.
Okay, all right.
We could choose not to take action, but that,
Well, no, we can't probably, but I'm just saying, for the sake of
Yeah.
consistency, they're not on the agenda either, and,
right, but this wasn't something we discussed in the executive session.
okay, all right.
And we weren't expected to come out and make any decisions based on that document because we never discussed it. These other documents, we discussed in the executive session, and now if we choose to take action, we can.
Okay.
And
Do we need to take action on anything
Yes.
out of?
Yes. To-
And our next meeting.
And the option. And the option.
And the
Oh,
option.
two things, yeah.
Yes.
So we're all comfortable going forward with these executive items. We discussed. I am too.
Yes.
Okay, so what we have in front of us is, a third amendment to the farm lease, a release, and a settlement agreement and release. Not necessarily in that order, but, that would be going.
I will make a motion, to approve the settlement agreement and release with Walter Farms. Can I just do them all three at once?
I would,
Okay, that's the first one, then the second part of this motion is, I would also move to approve the third amendment to farm lease agreement with Walter Farms. And the release between the port and Walter Farms. I would move approval of those and give staff the ability to execute them. As needed.
okay,
I'll second that.
okay, John is moved and Kelly is seconded for these items with Walter Farms and three, I won't go through them again, they were in the motion. Any other discussion on those? We need. Okay, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote, I'll start with you, Joe.
Aye.
Okay, John?
Aye.
Aye for myself, Rick?
Aye.
And Kelly?
Aye.
Okay, motion is approved unanimous. Okay.
And then there's a need for an option.
Oh, the
to-
option,
to
yeah.
To refuse an option, right?
Yeah,
Right, first refusal.
Yeah, so I move that we refuse the option to, on the right of first refusal on the, which property?
Buchan.
Buchan property.
okay, there's a motion by John,
I'll second.
second by Rick. Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote again, I'll get you, Joel, first time.
Aye.
Okay, John?
Aye.
And I for myself, and Rick.
Aye.
And Kelly.
Aye.
Okay. Vote is unanimous, motion passes. I should cover everything.
Need to change the date of our commission meeting for March.
From.
From March 12th to another date,
You can do it in DC.
I'll be a different week.
a different week. The next week would be great.
I have a,
After coming back from DC, right? Yeah.
the 19th, I guess I have a meeting in the morning.
Yeah, I have a meeting the 19th.
I have what, I can move it.
Do you want to go to the 18th?
I could do the 18th.
What day is that?
A Tuesday.
I could do the 18th.
Okay, I can too. Rick,
Okay,
Rick, no.
no,
Okay, but 20.
20th, actually,
I am available on this date when I don't get fired.
20 Thursday.
it's a Thursday.
I'm trying to think. On our bill sale where it would be, what I'll be
Oh,
doing,
yeah.
go ahead and set it up. I'll just include it.
Yeah, I'm available.
Okay. Are we on the 20th?
I'll work Wednesday.
March
Okay.
20th.
And
Okay.
Joel, you're good on the 20th?
I am good on the 20th.
Okay, sounds like the 20th, 1:30.
Sounds good.
All right, good.
And based on this conversation, we'll work harder to make sure that our agenda items match up with things from executive session that need action, make sure it's back here properly.
Oh, okay.
So that that's easier for us to discuss.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And how about Washington? I forgot to ask about. Are you going to Washington?
I am.
Anybody else? Scheduled?
I haven't decided that.
I think I can go myself, so. I'm not gonna go.
Okay.
Okay, no, okay.
No.
No, I can't go.
Okay, well, I'll get with Randy, I guess.
Maria,
Maria?
Maria.
she's the one used to those ones.
Okay. Anything else, before we get going here? Before we end, okay, well, with nothing there, it is 5:30, I will adjourn our commission meeting.